I would now like to call the January 27th, 2026 Longmont City regular session to order. The live stream of this meeting can be viewed at the city's YouTube channel, longmontpublicmedia.com watch, or Comcast channels 8 or 880. Can we start with a roll call, please?
Absolutely. Mayor Hildago Faring?
Here.
Councilmember Christ?
Present.
Councilmember Kalkofer?
Present.
Councilmember Marcin?
Here.
Councilmember McCoy?
Present.
Councilmember Popkin?
Here.
Councilmember Prieto?
Present.
Mayor, a quorum is present.
Great, thank you. Let's stand for the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the
flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
In accordance with the council's rules of procedure, the rules for providing public comment are as followed. Only Longmont residents and employees of the city of Longmont may speak during first call public invited to be heard. You must provide your address at the sign-up sheet before the meeting, or I will not call your name. Each speaker is limited to 3 minutes. Anyone may speak on second reading or public hearing item, and you are asked to add your name to the speaker list for the specific item before the meeting. Anyone may speak at final call public invited to be heard. Members of the audience shall refrain from disruptive, vulgar, and abusive language, applause, heckling, or other actions that interfere with the orderly function of the council. And now we're on to approval of the minutes. May I have a motion to approve the minutes?
So moved.
Okay, so the motion has been made by Mayor Pro Tem McCoy. And go ahead. Do we have a second?
Second.
Okay, Councilmember Marcin second, and go ahead, Councilmember Christ.
Thank you, Mayor. So I just have one point of clarification, and that is on page 10 of the minutes, on the last bullet point. It lists National Civic League training on the effectiveness of bodies. Maybe it was just because I was at work. I was like, what kind of bodies are we talking about here? But should we say civic bodies or civic elected bodies, maybe? I think part of what they're talking about is civic assembly, so those would not necessarily be elected. So in context, I get it, but out of context, when I was reading it, I thought I'm not going to remember what we were talking about here. So could we interject maybe civic bodies? Would that make sense? Civic assemblies. Yeah, or other bodies, because it could be more than just them. Yeah. Okay.
Okay. So, okay, well, let's go ahead and vote on the minutes with the clarifying language.
Who was the motion and second on that, please?
The motion was made by Councilmember Mayor Pro Tem McCoy and Councilmember Marcin. It's a mouthful. Okay, and that carries unanimously. Now on to agenda revisions and submission of documents and motions to direct the city manager to add agenda items to future agendas. Are there any agenda revisions first? Do we have anything? Do we have any agenda revisions for tonight?
Yes, Mayor. There was a correction to item 12A. That was resolution 2026-08. There was a new amendment to the MOU uploaded this morning at 9 a.m.
Okay, and did you all get that? Perfect. Okay. And then now we're on to adding items to future agendas. Councilmember Marcin.
Thank you, Mayor. I move that we direct the city manager and the city attorney on a timeline consistent with staff's current work plan to prepare and introduce on zero reading for council's consideration a draft ordinance amending section 1504020 of the Longmont Municipal Code to allow single-family attached dwellings in the RSF zoning district, and to return to council with any recommended revisions or questions prior to first reading.
Okay, so the motion to direct the city manager and city attorney on a timeline consistent with staff's current work plan to prepare and introduce a zero reading for council's consideration, a draft ordinance amending section 15.04.020 of the Longmont Municipal Code to allow single-family attached dwelling in the RSF zoning district, just for clarification for the record, and to return to council with any recommended questions or revisions prior to the first reading. And the motion was seconded by Mayor Pro Tem McCoy. Is there any discussion on this? Yes, go ahead.
Thank you, Mayor.
Now you can speak to it.
Yeah, thank you. I just want to speak to it briefly now that the technical language is out there. So what this motion really does, both for the public's edification and for everyone up here, is ask staff whenever it fits within their schedule, right? So it's not a staff pressure issue. There's nothing like that, to bring back an ordinance for zero reading. And that just means we're looking at actual language as opposed to like a study session item that's conceptual. So we actually have zero, like code language. Nothing is being adopted tonight. Nothing would be adopted on first reading. Nothing would be adopted on second reading. And the change itself is pretty small. It adjusts a line in our use table to allow basically what our code already defines as single-family attached housing, which are basically small townhomes. So 2 to 4 units typically as an allowed housing type under our code. So this doesn't create apartment buildings. In fact, arguably, it creates more alternatives to apartment buildings to give more tools in the housing toolbox. Doesn't change height limits or design standards, doesn't affect neighborhood scale. And the big piece here is the motion is specifically requesting for us to just look at this as an option when it works for staff and to have the conversation with code language in front of us. So that's what's being asked tonight.
Okay, thank you for the clarification. Councilmember Christ.
Does this include ADUs at all, Councilor Marzing?
Hold on, I'm getting.
No, not specifically. So it would specifically speak to the way our code defines these attached townhomes essentially as any unit, basically 2 to 4 units, so max 4 units with separate doors is the way that our code defines it specifically. So it does not include ADUs, is my understanding.
Okay, thank you.
Councilmember Kalkofer.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Councilman Marzing. I really appreciate this because when we were on the election trail, we heard a lot about development and apartment, and the spirit of this is to look at different ways for us to address our housing needs. And as you said, like, we're not looking to change anything. We're just trying to look at options, and I appreciate us hearing what we've heard on the election campaign to kind of address some of the things that we all heard. So it'll be interesting to see, what comes to light, and I'm sure we'll have a lot of folks come from the public to also look at this as well. So I appreciate the motion.
Okay. Councilmember Popkin.
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you, Councilmember Marsing. Could you just elaborate for my own understanding and maybe the public's too? You spoke a little bit about this in your intro, but why not a study session for this? Like, it's a topic on a potential policy item. Why zero reading? I've only seen, and I'll speak out of ignorance here, I've only seen a couple of zero reading moments in kind of my year of service here. So just could you elaborate on the thought process a little bit further there?
Thank you, Councilmember Popkin, and thank you, Mayor. Yeah, I think in conceptually thinking about this, and the best way to approach this issue specifically is zero readings, is my understanding in conversation with staff, are typically presented as a general business item rather than as something that is part of like the consent agenda. It would move to that if we were to move forward on zero reading. The benefit for me specifically in thinking of zero reading is when we're talking about a code change, it allows us to have actual language we're debating rather than a concept, right? It allows us to actually look at what changes within the code, and then within that general business section of that, whatever meeting that comes forward. Again, take your time, staff. No rush here. But whatever conversation comes about from that, we can then have actual language to look at and engage with rather than, and we can still do some of the conceptual thinking that would take place in a study session, but with specific language in front of us. So that, in my thinking, made more sense to me than just bring back this idea. Let's actually bring back the law that we're trying to adopt and move forward that way.
Sure.
And yeah.
Yeah, is this a, so the potential downside is that we spend a lot of time and effort, or staff does, drafting legislative text and code changes. Is this, to your, like, do you expect this will be a hefty code rewrite type situation, or is this a much more simple update? Like, how are you, what is the expectation?
I'm conceptualizing it, and my understanding is that we're talking about the use table, is we're talking about adding a P to the use table. And I would defer to staff in terms of how they would view the and I've had conversations about, the initial instruction I had from staff was that this would not be a huge lift theoretically,
Okay.
but I would want to defer to them on some of the specific timing of that, if anyone in planning or Harold or anyone else had a thought. But in general, the way it's conceptualized is we're adding a P to the use table in those RSF zoning districts. If I'm incorrect, I'm happy to be proven incorrect.
Harold, did you want to chime in on that one?
I'll chime in on it. A couple of things. I think the Planning Commission has also brought this forward as something to consider, and if we, according to Grant, if we keep it relatively in simple form, it's not a heavy lift. If it starts becoming more complicated and nuanced, then
Sure.
it does become a heavy lift.
Okay, thank you. Appreciate it.
Yeah, and my goal is certainly not to make it a heavy lift if we can avoid it.
Great, thank you. Okay, so seeing no one else in the queue, let's go ahead and vote. Okay, and so the motion carries 6-1 with Councilmember Christ in opposition. So are there any other items? Nope. Oh, I do have some, okay. Councilmember Kalkofer.
Thank you, Mayor. And I don't know if you want to talk about this now or later, but I am going to be traveling on the May 26th meeting, and I'd like to attend that regular session remotely. And I plan to be back on June 2nd study session in person, though I might arrive late. And I don't know if you want to talk about that, or if I can make a motion so I can participate remotely on May 26th.
Okay, and we were just talking about when would be a good time to bring this forward. It was either at the end or at the beginning. I mean, we could go ahead and vote on it now. Councilmember Popkin, if you want to make yours as well, we can do that. So this would be for virtual participation on the May 26th meeting. Okay, so,
Thank you.
yeah. So the request, the motion was made by Councilmember Kalkofer to allow him to participate virtually at the May 26, 2026 meeting, and it was seconded by Mayor Pro Tem McCoy. Do we have any discussion on the topic? No, you don't want to discuss? No. Okay, okay, that's fine. Let's go ahead and vote then. Yeah, do it now, just, we're on a roll. Okay, and that carries unanimously. Thank you for letting us know. And then we'll look at the June 2nd as that comes up. If you end up being late or if you have to miss it, we'll figure something out. Okay, Councilmember Christ.
Thank you, Mayor. So I've had a lot of questions from the general public about the fact that we have no snow and what our water forecast would be for the year, and recently attended water board, and just want to alert everyone that we are in a moderate drought in Boulder County right now, is how we're labeled. And I would like to, as part of that, then move staff to connect with staff member Wes Lowry in the water department to include city council in any presentations regarding the drought conditions and info relating to the Chimney Hollow Reservoir in an upcoming study session. And that would be as he is able to schedule it with the parties that would bring that information.
Go ahead.
That's fine. We were actually thinking the same thing as we get a little bit further, so that lines up well.
Okay, very good. Any discussion on this? Okay, so let's go ahead and vote. And it was to, the
minutes
motion was
taken.
made by Councilmember Chris to direct staff to bring back the water.
Yeah, to connect with staff member Wes Lowry to include city council in any presentations regarding drought conditions and info relating to the Chimney Hollow Reservoir in upcoming study session.
Did you get that? Okay. Did you send her a copy of that? Okay, yeah.
That's why I'm waiting for her.
Yeah, we'll probably, depending on where we sit, dig into the drought plan as well.
Okay.
And the numbers will tell us kind of what we would be projecting and what actions we would take at what point in time,
Okay,
if that's okay.
so that sounds good. And the motion was seconded by Councilmember Marcin. And it has failed. Oh, there it
Okay.
is, okay. Okay, no, that, the motion carries unanimously. Okay, thank you, Councilmember. Now, Councilmember Popkin.
Sure, I'll jump on the remote participation bandwagon here, if we're going to do that now. I have clarity on a few different work-related trips and would appreciate remote participation for up to 4 dates that I know of through the next 6 months. Oh, sorry, I just had those. Where'd that go? The 4 dates would include 2 study sessions and 2 regular meetings. They are Tuesday, February 24th, Tuesday, May 19th, Tuesday, May 26th, and Tuesday, June 6th. So Councilmember Kalkofer and I will be both remote for one of those dates, potentially.
So then you both definitely need to log in.
Second.
Yeah. Okay,
Thank
so the motion, and so that final date was June 6th.
June
Thank
6th,
you.
yeah.
Okay, so the motion was made by Councilmember Popkin to request virtual presence at the February 24th, May 19th, May 26th, and June 6th council meetings. And
Yes, thank
that
you.
motion was seconded by Mayor Pro Tem McCoy. If we don't have any, do we have any discussion? Do you have, okay, go ahead.
Just quick clarification. I will be stateside and I'll be on my way back from the airport. So I will be here. I'm hoping to be here on time, but I should be okay.
Okay, you don't have to rub it in.
Yeah. And are you talking on the 26th one, or no, the 2nd, June 2nd? Great, okay. Very good. Okay, thank you. And we can go ahead and vote.
Great.
Oh.
Oh.
Go ahead, Councilmember Christ.
Isn't June 6th a Saturday?
Yeah, that might be a typo. Yes, that might be the 2nd,
Okay.
if that's the Tuesday. Apologies.
Oh, okay.
Let me see.
I think you are
Are
correct.
you scheduled for, no,
Yeah,
it's
it
too
is
early in the
the
Correct.
2nd. It's
Yeah, okay.
June 2nd. It's-
Okay.
Okay.
All right, thank you.
Yeah, June 2nd, actually, no, sorry, it should be June 9th. It was a 6, not a 9.
June 9th,
That's why.
okay.
Good day.
That's okay.
Apologies.
That's Donald Duck's birthday.
That's why I'm not going to. June 9th, apologies, June 9th, not
Okay,
June
so
6th.
if we can have the notes reflect that
Yes,
June 9th, 2026 instead of the 6th.
thank you.
Thank you for catching that.
Good night.
You would have been the only one participating online.
Quorum of 1.
Quorum of 1, very good. So the motion carries unanimously. Yeah.
Thank you.
Of course. Okay, so now on to the city manager's report.
No report, Mayor, Council.
Okay, and so now we're on to special reports and presentation. And here we have a proclamation designating October 28th, 2025 as the 80th anniversary of the opening of the Longmont Municipal Airport Day in Longmont, Colorado. So I have Melinda Jordan. Come on down, and other members of the advisory board, if you are here, to come accept the proclamation. I'm going to read it here shortly. Yeah, I'll read it first. Not yet, yeah. You know, you could stay, but you can have a seat. Okay, so proclamation designating October 28th, 2025 as the 80th anniversary of the opening of Longmont Municipal Airport Day in Longmont, Colorado. Whereas over 80 years ago, the forefathers of this city looked beyond their time and laid a foundation for innovation, exploration, and community when they established the Longmont Municipal Airport at 229 Airport Road. And whereas since October 28th, 1945, the airport has remained steadfast at this historic location and continues to serve as a gateway to significant opportunity and progress. And whereas the Longmont Municipal Airport, now Vance Brand Airport, airport identifier KLMO, has earned the professional respect and support of 3 living NASA astronauts, generations of commercial and private pilots, business aviation professionals, numerous successful aviation enterprises, as well as professional skydivers who have traveled to this airport from over 75 countries. And whereas our airport and single runway has inspired and empowered education, technological advancement, exploration, commerce, personal and professional achievements, and whereas the airport has contributed to support jobs, economic growth, education, animal rescue missions, military exercises, emergency support, and the spirit of innovation that defines our community, while inspiring future generations to reach beyond the horizon. Now, therefore, I, Susie Hidalgo Faring, Mayor, by virtue of the authority vested in me and the City Council of the City of Longmont, do hereby proclaim October 29th, 2025 as 80th anniversary of the opening of the Longmont Municipal Airport Day in Longmont, and honor and celebrate 80 years of the Longmont Airport's legacy, recognizing its history, its impact, and its enduring role in shaping the past, present, and future of our city. Thank you. That was beautiful. So, did you want to speak to anything? Oh, yeah, and if you turn on your mic on the right side, I think. Yeah, there we go.
It's much easier to drive from here than there.
Yeah.
Just that we appreciate your support of the airport, and it's never easy, and what in life worth working for is. So we really appreciate your support of the airport.
Thank you. Thank you. Would you like a picture?
Sure.
Yeah.
I've got some other people here too.
Oh, yeah, bring them on down.
One of our astronauts.
Oh, wonderful. Yeah, let's get.
We're gonna keep it on because we have public. Let's squeeze it all together. There we go. All right, everyone, on 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. Beautiful. Thank you, guys.
Okay, now we're on to our next proclamation, designating the month of January 2026 as National Radon Action Month in Longmont, Colorado. So, and this is, so whereas radon is an invisible, odorless, radioactive gas that threatens the health of our residents and their families. The radon gas is a group 1 carcinogen known to cause lung cancer in humans with prolonged exposure. And whereas the the Colorado Rocky Mountain region has been ranked Zone 1, an area with the highest radon potential possible by the U.S. Environmental Protection Agency, whereas Colorado residential radon data has shown 50% of the Colorado homes tested as being at or above the U.S. Environmental Protection Agency radon action level at 4.0 PCIL. Now help me with this. picocuries per liter, picocuries. Picocuries. I like that, good one, thank you. Liter of air, and whereas any home in Longmont, Colorado may have elevated levels of radon and supporting recommended radon practices and policies to reduce radon exposure is important to protect our community's health and welfare. Whereas testing for radon is simple and inexpensive, and identified radon problems can be fixed, and whereas Boulder County Public Health and the Colorado Department of Public Health and Environment and the U.S. Environmental Protection Agency and the American Lung Association are supporting efforts to encourage Americans to test their homes for radon, have elevated levels of radon reduced, and have new homes built with radon-resistant features. Now, therefore, I, Susie Thalgo-Faring, Mayor by virtue of the authority vested in me, and the City Council of the City of Longmont, do hereby proclaim January 2026 as National Radon Action Month in Longmont, Colorado, and encourage all residents to check their homes for radon. And we have Pat Dooley, the Environmental Health Specialist for Boulder, Colorado. If you would like to say a few words.
Hi, thank you, Council, for your time and making this proclamation. January is a month where we remind folks the importance of testing for radon. As you know, we spend about 90% of our times indoors, especially in the wintertime, and it's an easy time to do a short-term test. And you can get free test kits online through your health departments. Visit our website or the state health department's website to get a test kit. Radon is the second leading cause of lung cancer, and it's one of those environmental hazards that's really easy to test and also easy to fix. Also, one thing I'd like to point out that Colorado has a very unique program, the only program in the United States, a low-income radon mitigation assistance program for folks that own their home or have a mortgage on it that meet the income requirements, and they can have radon mitigation paid for by the state health department. So this is a really great opportunity for many of our community members. And with that, I thank you and visit our website for test kits.
Very good, thank you. Would you like a picture?
Oh, sure, why not?
Okay.
I don't have an astronaut with me.
And before we gather, Council, did you want to ask a question about this? Yes, go ahead. So,
Question?
Yeah, sorry to disrupt the picture flow.
Yeah.
Just a very quick question. You mentioned the low-income qualifying eligibility there. What is the income threshold? Just so folks know who are paying attention and we can be ambassadors for that.
That is an excellent question. There's it's by county.
Okay.
And so on the State Health Department's website, there is a list of that. I want to say right off the top of my head, in Boulder County, a family of two is around 70,000, but don't quote me on that
Okay,
because
but
I don't.
close to that level, and you
Yeah.
can find more details on
Right.
online.
So it's
Yeah.
it's great. And if you're interested in more information, I'd be happy to get that to you.
Sure.
yeah.
Okay.
Great. I'll hand you my card. Thank you.
Yeah. No, and I think we would all like that.
Okay.
That information.
Yeah.
Yes, send it around, and then so they can access the website.
Yes, the best way to find out information about the LRMA program, the Low Income Radon Mitigation Program, is either on our website, bouldercountyradon.org, www.boco.org/radon, or the State Health Department's website, where you can find a lot of the details with the charts with the various counties and the income limits. And that website is coloradoradon.info.
Okay.
And on both websites, you can find free short-term test kits while they last.
Very good. Thank you. And then, Sandy, do we have something? I think we have something on our website about radon testing. So you can also connect through the city website if you're more comfortable with that as well, and then or the county and state. And I'm
Great.
talking to the public.
Thank you.
Of course. Let's take a picture.
And Mayor, we are running a similar campaign in conjunction, so it'll be in our newsletters and everything like that. So, yeah.
do a big old worm. There we go. All right, perfect. All right, big smiles on 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. Radon on 3. 1, 2, 3. Good deal. Thank you.
Yeah, we are. Okay. So now we are on to public invited to be heard, and the first name on the list is Pavel Ivanovov.
Test. Good evening, Council. Pavel Ivanov here. I had a speech planned, a very detailed, almost lecture style of how the present administration in Russia took away authority from its local governments, little by little, and how alarmingly we're seeing some similar things happen in the US. It was very factual, very detailed, very thought out, and it took me hours. Instead, I'm too emotional today, been for a few days, and we all heard about it, we all know about it, and we are all scared about it. Yes, there are courts and other ways the government in Minnesota and already finding the president targeted attack against its citizens. We all understand that the state choice wasn't random, and we already know how the White House framed it. For those who haven't, I quote Caroline Leavitt, the press secretary of the White House. The tragedy is a result of deliberate and hostile resistance by Democrat leaders in Minnesota. I don't like being gaslighted. I don't think you do. I don't like when actions of other people is put onto me or other people. Let's be clear on one thing. Alex did not hold a gun. He did not try to reach it. He was not a deadly threat and was in fact disarmed seconds before he was shot. If I steal a bag of groceries, it's illegal. It should be charged, fined, possibly put in jail for a bit, but not shot. In Colorado, Bighorn Correctional Facility in Hudson, a former prison, is being reactivated as we speak. It'll be an ICE detention center. We may be next, and a Longmont may be next. My neighbors are Hispanic. A good amount of my business clients are Hispanic. In fact, Council may know, we have 24% Hispanic people in Longmont. I'm afraid, Council, that the right to peaceful protest might be taken away, just like it is actively being taken away in Minnesota with marginalizing of protesters who peacefully assemble. Worst thing here is no authority. As of now, we would have no way of stopping it if it ever starts here. I'm terrified and people are terrified. I talked to numerous Longmonters so far who are really scared. I saw a lady with an obscene banner about her Mr. President this morning at 7 a.m. She was not afraid to go out, and I would not want her to be marginalized and scared even further. We see big online discussions about possible resistance. I asked the council to think of ways we could protect ourselves if such brutality ever comes to Longmont. And make no mistake, I'm not asking for any forceful conflict against the federal government. That'll be even worse. But I think we need to think about ways we can protect ourselves, be it diplomacy, acts, regulations, anything that we can do to protect ourselves here. I don't think we want door-to-door armed agents here. Lastly, I want us to have a minute of silence for Alex Preddy, an ICU nurse, shot.
Thank you. Lance Whitaker.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. My name's Lance Whitaker. I live at 1750 Collier Street. And as you know, I come up with the days, and today's not a very good day. Today is Vietnam Peace Remembrance Day, National Holocaust Remembrance Day. You can also plan your vacation day. And on a little of the lighter side, it's also Chocolate Cake Day. I'd like to also remind people that on this day, Congress approved the Indian Territory, known as Oklahoma nowadays, clearing the way for relocation of Indians, better known as the Trail of Tears. Today is also Bill English's birthday, If nobody knows who that is, he is the maker of the mouse and not the furry one. Thank you, Mayor and Council. Oh, I'd like to also recommend that you guys relook at the work that staff has done for cannabis hospitality, and hopefully we could do that without sales. Thank you, and have a nice day.
Great, thank you. David Schenk?
I'd like,
And then just restate your name for the record.
oh, sorry, David Schenk, 1 Bowen Street. I'd like to thank the council and the staff for the recognition of the 80th anniversary of the airport. I've been a tenant of the cities out there for over 30 years. I'd like to think that the new council, and I urge you to take a more active role in the airport and the benefits that it provides to the city, which are many and varied. There was a period late last year when a new lease at the airport was unknown. Suddenly, leases that had previously been forbidden to be assigned were only allowed to be assigned. Some people were getting 30-year leases. Some people were getting a lease of an assignment of a few years. I think that needs to be addressed to a much greater extent. There is a rumor that one of the airport tenants has been offered a lease. I have not seen it. I don't know that council has acted on it, and it will be interesting to see what that includes. But please, take a better attitude towards what is a tremendous city asset. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Paul Tiger.
Paul Tiger, somewhere in Longmont. Thank you. And so I'd like to revive something that Mayor Baum used to do, and that was just that he would give people 30 seconds or so at the beginning of their talk to talk about. He says, if you're here to complain about Longmont, you must care. So then tell us something that you like about Longmont. So I love Vance Brand. I love Vance Brand. Even when I'm mowing my lawn, I hear planes overhead. I can hear Rolls-Royce engines a ways away. So we got a lot of classic planes that fly out of there. And yeah, so the last couple of years, you might have seen I wrote an editorial asking you if you were going to make it into a shopping mall or tract housing because of the way the city was treating the airport and the residents of the airport. So hopefully this council will really celebrate the airport. It sounds like we are. But anyway, I do have a complaint, and it's still a constructive one. So out on the decking, the light bulbs, I was looking to see if Sandy was here tonight so she could explain. Oh, hi. I will talk to her. Everything I'm going to tell you now is wrong. So the lighting that was put up out there when it was restored after the renovation was inadequate. And just simply replacing the bulbs in them and saying, oh, well, the lights are back on, it's inadequate. So the area right there where you come up the steps is in a dark hole. And because the sidewalk is uneven with the level stairs, I have fallen there a number of times. I can hike at night, but I fall here. So what's up? So anyway, that's why I'm here, and I do love the airport. It's well lit.
Great. Thank you. Okay. Okay, seeing no one else on the list, I will close public invited to be heard. And we are now on to the consent agenda and introduction and reading by title of first reading ordinances. Can we please have the consent agenda read for the record?
Absolutely. The second reading and public hearing for all ordinances introduced on this consent agenda will be held on February 10th, 2026. First item is item 9A. This is Resolution 2026-05, a resolution of the Longmont City Council approving the intergovernmental agreement between the city and the Longmont Housing Authority for support and services. Next item is item 9B. This is Resolution 2026-06, a resolution of the Longmont City Council authorizing an agreement between the City of Longmont and Rothrock Properties LLC for purchase of real property. Item 9C is Resolution 2026-07, a resolution of the Longmont City Council authorizing and supporting the application for a grant from the Colorado Department of Local Affairs for the First and Main Transit Center. Item 9D is to approve one capital improvement program amendment. Item 9E is to finalize the City Council retreat agenda.
Okay. Can I have a motion to approve the consent agenda or any items to be pulled? I'll start with Councilmember Popkin.
Thank you, Mayor. I'd like to pull items B and C from the consent agenda.
Turn it back on. Push the wrong button. No, it's fine. Councilmember Christ.
Thank you, Mayor. I would like to add or pull item E because we need to discuss and finalize our retreat.
Very good, thank you. So would you like to move the consent agenda minus B, C, and E?
I will. So I move the consent agenda minus B, C, and E.
Okay, so the motion has been made to approve the consent agenda, except items B, C, and E. The motion was moved by Councilmember Chris, seconded by Councilmember Popkin. Let's go ahead and vote. Okay, and that carries unanimously. Now we're on to ordinances on second reading and public hearings on any matter. And, well, we have one item. So item A, ordinance 2026-01, a bill for an ordinance making additional appropriations for expenses and liabilities of the City of Longmont for the fiscal year beginning January 1st, 2026. So do we have any questions from council? Okay, or comments? Councilmember Christ.
So when this was on first reading, I asked Sandra Cifuentes to send me a list of grant money that could potentially be at risk. And then I asked Don to forward that to each counselor. Thank you, Sandra, for doing that. It was very instructional, actually. And then she also has a plan for if that money does not appear as promised on the time and date planned. So actually, are you having a public hearing? Do you have any public on
So
this?
there is no public signed up to
Okay.
be heard.
Then I can move it if you like.
Well, I think we have to open the public hearing and do all that.
All right. Thank you, ma'am.
So, okay, and then I thought I saw another, do we have another question? Oh, you did, okay. So, never, I was gonna go through all the questions. So, okay, so I will now open public hearing on ordinance 2026-01, and I do not see anyone on the list. Is there anyone who would like to speak on this item? Okay, seeing no one, I will now close the public hearing. Now, may I have a motion to adopt ordinance 2026-01?
I move ordinance 2026-01.
Okay, so the motion has been made by Councilmember Chris, seconded by Councilmember Popkin. Is there any discussion on the matter? Okay, let's go ahead and vote. Okay, and the ordinance carries unanimously. So now we are on to, wait a second. Oh, we are on 10B. So, okay, yeah, it's just on my, do you have something on B? That is bizarre. I don't have, do you see? I don't have anything on mine. Wait, do I have? Oh, there it is. Okay. Thank you. Okay, so this one is a ordinance 2026-01, a bill for an ordinance amending Chapter 14.42 of the Longmont Municipal, the Longmont Municipal Code to reduce the size of the Airport and Public Places Commission. Is that? Art in Public Places, sorry, Art in Public Places Commission and modernize the Art in Public Places program. I'm looking at too many spaces right now. Okay. So, do we have any questions or comments from council? Okay. Councilmember Kalkoffer.
Thank you, Mayor. And just to confirm that the folks who are on this board now would serve out the rest of their term until it expires, and then we would not refill those vacancies until we are down to 9, correct?
Yeah.
Correct.
That was my understanding. And the discussions were happening, I was still on the board when these discussions were happening. It sounded like it was going to be kind of a phased out and then just not filling them afterwards. Is that correct? Okay. Okay, so now we're on to, I would like to open the public hearing for ordinance 2026-02. And there's no one on the list. Is there anyone in the audience who would like to speak to this matter? Okay, so I will now close public hearing. May I have a motion to pass and adopt ordinance 2026-02? Second. Okay, so the motion has been made by Mayor Pro Tem McCoy and seconded by Councilmember Marcin. Let's go ahead and vote. Okay, and that item carries unanimously. We are now on to items removed from consent agenda, and I had go back to the page, B, so I'm going to start with B, Councilmember Popkin.
Thank you, Mayor. I just had a couple questions for staff on this one. This is a property acquisition, I believe, or property purchase, and I just wanted to make sure the public was clear on what was happening and we're clear on what's happening. So, good evening, Jim. How are you?
I'm well, sir.
Thank you in advance. So if I'm understanding correctly from this, first of all, anytime there's like a city property acquisition, I just want to make sure like this was a situation where the property owner approached the city, correct?
Councilmember Popkin, that is correct.
Yeah, okay. And then can you just walk us through kind of the benefits that the city is seeing, or the public benefits from kind of the acquisition of this, especially in the location where this is on the south end of Spring Gulch?
Councilmember Popkin, we won't see the benefits right away. The project currently is conceptual in nature, in the theory that when you have property adjacent to any waterway, rivers, streams, during times of peak runoff, high rates of storms, you're going to see some flooding. In this case, adjacent to Spring Gulch, the two of the properties that we are proposing to purchase are in what is called the floodway. So in most areas of the city where we have floodplain, that's what's called a 100-year floodplain, which is a 1% chance that property will flood in a year. Okay, when we look at storms of lower levels, 5-year, 10-year storms, that's when you start seeing waterway properties regularly flooding. That's the floodway. So the theory is that adjacent to a waterway, when we see flooding downstream, we can provide additional storage through a detention facility that'll reduce that rate of water flowing downstream. And then downstream of this property is 3rd Avenue. It is also the sugar factory and areas down Dickens Park as well.
Got it. So the current conceptual plan kind of following acquisition is to start working towards a more intentional resilience effort from a flood mitigation standpoint longer term, right? Not necessarily next year, not necessarily the next 2 years, but that's the plan that kind of...
It's a project of opportunity. We have an opportunity to purchase the properties. They're limited with what they can do with them. And so we're looking at some type of a resilient project. A project that could also involve an additional properties when it's not raining, at the Kensington Park as well.
Gotcha, because this could be an extension of a trail or park as a kind of a stormwater retention greenway type project, even though this is correct me if I'm wrong, this gulch is man-made, correct? It's not a river or a creek?
I don't know that it's man-made in its history, but I believe it is. It has been improved.
Or it's now kind of a concrete
Yes, it is a concrete line channel.
Yes, good. Well, thank you. I appreciate the strategic context for this and appreciate you sharing that.
Thanks, sir.
Okay, would you like to?
Sure. Seeing no other questions from council, I'll move to approve item R 2026-06, a resolution of the Longmont City Council authorizing an agreement between the City of Longmont and Rothrock Properties LLC for the purchase of real property.
Okay, so the motion has been made by Councilmember Popkin and seconded by Councilmember Christ. So let's see, no one in the queue. Let's go ahead and vote. Okay, and the motion carries unanimously. And now we're on to item, was it C? Item C, and that was also Councilmember Popkin.
I just left the mic on.
Yeah, I just left it on.
There we go. Thank you. Just again, a couple questions for staff on this one. Harold, this is probably your way. So this is the resolution authorizing and supporting an application for the Department of Local Affairs, the Colorado grant for First and Main Transit Station Transit Center. My understanding is this is a $4 million grant that we are applying for, right? We're not like signing the authorization that we received it at this time, correct?
Correct.
Got it. And then the council communication form mentions that we have 14.4 million in kind of city CIP planned funding for this already. Is that so? The match percentage is, it's like the inverse of what it would normally suggest to me from a grant strategy standpoint. So are we applying for the maximum amount of grant funding through this opportunity?
So when we looked at it, the total amount that they had available in that grant was 15 million. And I think evaluating what that looked like and what we could realistically expect, we came in with a 4. And so it was really based on how much money they had in the program. And
so it's not per applicant. That's the total funding amount in the whole pot for anyone to apply for.
Yeah, that's what I understand. And so we were managing that piece in terms of determining what we applied for.
Got it. So this is a strategic ask, basically. What do we think is valuable for this, meaningful for the city, but also like we think is attainable through this application?
Exactly.
Great. Thank you. I appreciate that.
Yeah, I thought it was maximum, but that's when they gave me the details behind it, and so tactical.
Got it. And so there was no like individual applicant maximum, but it's all relative to the overall pot that we're pulling from or trying to.
Correct. And kind of to just give some broader perspective on this, we also have the 16 million that came in from RTD, of which we're using as part of this. The city, so when we talk about this, then we put 10 million in property acquisition. And then when we look at the development of the parking garage, it's going to be more than that. And so we're just trying to build the capital stack, and then also talk to both the council and the Urban Renewal Authority in terms of tax increment financing if needed on this.
Got it. So this is a multifaceted capital stack. We think
Absolutely.
that the 4 million we're applying for in this situation is kind of the strategic ask here, given the total funding available.
Correct.
That we think is a reasonable application and competitive. Thank you.
Would you like to move the item?
Seeing no other mics, I will mics on. I will move to approve item 9C, a resolution of the Longmont City Council authorizing and supporting the application for a grant from the Colorado Department of Local Affairs for the First and Main Transit Center.
Okay, so the motion has been made by Councilmember Popkin, seconded by Mayor Pro Tem McCoy, and seeing no one else in the queue, let's go ahead and vote. Okay, and then that item carries unanimously, and now we're on to item E, which was finalize the City Council retreat agenda, and that was pulled by Councilmember Christ.
Thank you, Mayor. So I see there are many items we need to discuss here. So first of all, the one thing I noticed on the council communication is, do we want a time for public invited to be heard? And I really deliberated on that. But I think a retreat is really supposed to be a retreat from regular duties. And maybe we need some time to envision on our own without being encumbered with the topics of the day, because we really need to see into the future, and we know what's come before council already. So I think I would rather hear what the public has to say after the retreat at the next council meeting than have it during the retreat itself. So that was one of my first comments. Do you want me to just go through all this and then everybody can do that, or would you like to go
I'm
bit by
wondering,
bit?
can we do one at a time if they're?
I would like that, and then we can all talk about each thing. Okay.
Let's do that.
So, Mayor, I did check this one with
Yes.
city attorney just to see kind of what the rules are.
Yeah.
And, this is not a rule-making meeting of the city council, so technically you don't have to have a public invite to be heard. We have done that. We didn't include this in the draft agenda just because we were waiting to finalize place and some other things, but this is really what the council would like to do, whether you would like to have a public invite to be heard at the end of the retreat, at the end of both days, not at all.
What did we do last time?
and-
Did we
and
have
feel
it at
free to
the
correct
end of?
me.
It was at the end of the whole retreat, right? It was just one day last year. Oh, that's right. It was one day. It was one day. Okay.
There was some controversy at the end of it.
Customarily, you have had a public invite to be heard at the end, but it is your choice.
Okay. I'm going to go ahead and throw this, have this, not throw it, but you know what I mean.
Catch.
I'm not going to throw things. Oh, okay. Yeah, don't quote me on that. We have Councilmember McCoy, or Mayor Pro Tem McCoy. Go ahead.
Thank you, Mayor. Usually we do want to give some small thing because people, it's fresh in their minds, and what we've talked about, the flavor of the conversation and everything like that. I hate to have conversations about community engagement and then not have community engagement. Kind of comes across as a little bit not genuine, to say the least. So one maybe on the last day, since it's a half day, would probably be appropriate. I mean, we're not talking that we're going to have several hours of testimony. It probably would be good optics to not talk about how we're connecting with the community and not have the community have a small voice in either thanking us or disapproving what we thought about.
Thank you.
So, Mayor, I see a couple of nods, but I think I need 4 nods.
Okay.
If that's something you would like to do it that way or not, or you're welcome to make a motion.
Okay, and then we have a couple other.
Yeah.
Okay, Councilmember Kalkofer.
Thank you, Mayor. When would the next open forum be? Would it be?
I believe that's scheduled for July. Yeah, I believe that's scheduled for July currently.
What I appreciated from the last retreat that I was a resident for and a spectator, I did appreciate the time to reflect on the day, but we do have 2 days instead of 1. And my thought would be to give the public the chance to kind of debrief at the end of day 2, just so all of the information that if they participated either in person or virtually, we can kind of wrap the day, the end of it, with public invited to be heard, just so we can kind of tie a bow to it, just to get a sense of how the public reacted and felt how productive our session was. And I would hope that we could do it, maybe not both days, but on the second day towards the end to wrap up.
Okay. Councilmember
Open
Marcy.
forum is July 7th. I'm just interjecting information.
Thank you.
Councilmember Marcy.
Thank you, Mayor. I'll give you another head nod, Sandy, if that works for you. I think, I think folks who go to the retreat, especially if they're there for both days, are probably, pretty hardcore followers of what we're doing here at the city. And I'm curious about not just their, I don't know that we would get necessarily issues of the day in the conversation. I'm curious about, like Councilmember Kalkofer said, the overall, how are we doing? What was the takeaway? And then additionally, what's the community's broader hope for us as a council? What are they looking for from us? I think that input is valuable, and I think in the context of a retreat, we might get a little more of that than we do in public invited to be heard typically. So just my thought.
No, I do agree. I think we need to have the second day. And I'm trying to remember the last time we had a 2-day. I think it was at the end of the second day. And there were things that actually came on the table. It was the hospitality licensing, the ADU conversation, short-term rentals, that these were all issues then that we were able to incorporate throughout the year. So maybe it wasn't addressed specifically in our goals and objectives or, our priorities at that moment, but it was something for us to look into the future. And it does inform. I mean, it really, so I think we should have a public invited to be heard. Councilmember Popkin.
Yeah, I'll offer one more perspective on this. I was kind of going back and forth. I could see, first of all, we provide plenty of opportunities via email and with multiple monthly meetings for Coffee with Council, as well as these types of forums every week, basically, for people to react to what they have heard over the last news cycle or weekend or whatever. I think, so I was leaning towards the direction Councilmember Christ was going. However, I think what is unique about this moment is that it follows atypically from kind of our normal schedules. And so to the extent that our normal meeting schedules. And so to the extent that people have working hours that maybe don't allow them to show up to our Tuesday meetings regularly, or other schedules, having kind of a Saturday afternoon type of engagement, actually, I think would potentially add another opportunity there. I might encourage the public to kind of think about how they want to use their time in that situation, but I definitely would want to create that opportunity, especially if people's work schedules wouldn't normally allow them to participate in person.
Okay. And then I'll let Councilmember Prieto weigh in, and I think you already kind of have the numbers, but Councilmember Prieto.
So just kind of going along with what Councilmember Popkins said, I feel like there's a lot of opportunity for people to comment on their concerns and their hopes and visions for the community, what they like, what they don't like. There is not a lot of opportunity for us as a council to just come together and speak openly and generate ideas and conversation around solutions. So I would be a no on this one. Okay. I don't believe, but hopefully I'm proven wrong, that anything that is going to be brought forth that day via public invited to be heard is something new. I think it's everything that has been brought forth is at the top of our mind, and we will be discussing, and so I am no on this one.
Okay. Do you have the numbers? So how many would be in favor of setting a time for public invited to be heard? Please raise your hand. Okay. So we have 5, and then opposed we have 2. So we'll add it in at the very end. Okay. And if y'all want to leave.
Sounds good.
Yeah, use the restroom, I don't know. Okay, go ahead on the next item. I think because you had a list.
I do. So I think the breakfast and welcome sounds lovely. So I didn't have anything in that arena. Did anyone else have something that they wanted to say?
And Mayor, sorry, I hate to jump in. We think we have set ourselves up to go hold this at the Ascent property, the new LHA property.
Okay.
And if that is the case, we would on the second day offer a tour of the property during that breakfast and welcome. Okay. So it's not on the agenda because it's not finalized, but I just wanted to put that out there for you.
Okay. Okay. Oh, that's wonderful.
But number 2, the morning discussion topics, how we want to be as leaders. I was concerned about the first bullet under the first bullet, which is interviews of 2 to share a story. I feel like, there's 7 of us, so that right away makes 1 person without a partner. And I would like to get to know everybody. And we have a new council, so for me, I would like it to be maybe more round table. We could keep it shorter, but if we all hear everyone's stories, then we have the same impression of the new council members and the old council members, and the somewhere in the middle council members. Let's see, and I just have a couple in this category. So,
okay. And then, so for this particular topic, Councilmember Popkin, did you want to weigh in? Can we address this one, or are you going to another section, or are you still?
No, I was just going to stay under the first bullet, which is learn about ourselves. Well, what made you run for office? I feel like we answered that about 50 million times when we were running, and all but one of us were on a campaign, and the one of us that wasn't on a campaign ran for 3 years in a row, so we kind of know his story too. But then after thinking about it, I thought, I could take a different approach on this actually, because you say, what did you learn about yourself? And so we did get a lot of fresh information from the public, and so that tailored a lot of projects going forward. So if I took that lens, I think that's workable. And so that led to the next one, which is 3 things that are most important to you. So are we talking things or projects? You know what I'm saying? Like a thing would be equity, but what would the project be associated with that? And maybe we do both. So I just want some clarification on that.
Thank you, Mayor Hidalgo Faring and Councilmember Christ. The idea is to, because you already have a council work plan that has been in motion for lots of years, and yet my guess is that you all have priorities that you would like to make sure that you share and put your mark on what's happening. So if you take a look at the agenda as a whole, this first session is getting to know you. It may not look exactly like this because you may remember that we have asked an outside facilitator to come in and help. We met with him this week, and he's got some ideas also, including some pre-work that he may have you do. And so I appreciate the comments to be able to give him for feedback, but it may not look exactly like this because he'll put his own facilitation flair on it. But the concept is you share the things that are the priorities to you, this council priorities to you, and then later on in the day, you'll hear from Harold kind of the state of the city, not exactly, but, what are the constraints and what are the systems thinking aspects to take a look at as you move forward. And then at the suggestion of Councilmember Popkin, there's a how, now, wow exercise, which is where you take the 3 things and you put them on a matrix. And then at the end of the retreat, you're talking about what kinds of priorities, what things do you want to shift around to make this work plan, this council's work plan. And so it really is, it could be all of those things. It could be equity, it could be a project, it could be anything that you feel like you have got to make sure you mention as part of this council for this particular time frame. Yeah.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah.
Councilmember Popkin.
Thank you. I actually wanted to second some of Councilmember Christ's thoughts on the what made you run for office. I think I actually disagree with you. We didn't answer that 50 million times. We answered it 53 million times. And so I think we can maybe get at that on what did we learn from that process? What did we learn about the community, about ourselves? But anything that might stray towards forcing us back into the political putting on that hat for a moment and just putting us in that political box might actually be less productive to open dialogue for the retreat, and I'd hate for us to kind of start off on that on day one. So just food for thought for the facilitation team that's thinking about that. And I guess I'll let Councilmember McCoy jump in before we move on to the next bullet. So thank you.
Mayor Pro Tem McCoy.
Well, thank you, Mayor. I agree with Councilmember Popkin in the sense of what made you run. I think it's the what did you learn about yourself? Part of that is kind of interesting because you did learn some things about yourself, and that's something that I teach every day and try to convey to my students that I think is important, because a lot of people will put a lot of energy into this, and I always say that if you can't take the loss, you probably shouldn't get in the race, sort of thing. So that and it doesn't define you if you win or lose. So those are the sort of things that I think that would benefit us to hear where people are coming from because of that. But it's not the only thing, and there are things that we have here. I just think I'd take that little part out about what made you run. I think some of these other things are beneficial because there's value to them, and then I'll leave it for more discussion on
And
that.
we are opening it up to the facilitator to kind of direct, and so maybe how we want to be as leaders, this person might have a totally different activity for us. So
He
I
may
think
be adding some pieces. We talked about doing an assessment ahead of time so that you had some actual assessment results on your own style, some other pieces like that. So he's taking a look as well, and will offer some particular suggestions. What we wanted to do today was just kind of bring back the general flow. Like, is this generally what you're looking for, and would this lead to success at the end of the retreat?
so essentially how we are as leaders.
But this is good feedback,
What are-
because
yeah.
I wouldn't have guessed that
Yeah.
that was
So
how we
if-
connect
you'd
with
answered.
community. Okay.
So maybe a little bit about the facilitator. So he's facilitated private companies, large private companies, state level divisions. So think of DOLA and other groups like that, county governments, school districts. And
Harold. He
he
facilitating
facilitated
Harold.
me.
Nice.
Actually, why he came forward is he was the facilitator in the RTD Accountability Committee.
Okay.
And so his use of pre-work and really asking, and so your feedback's good because we'll take this feedback to him and then he'll start designing the pre-work to facilitate the conversation where it could be then a roundtable conversation amongst you all, but based on the pre-work that you're doing to get at some of these issues. And so he will come back, we'll meet with him now with this feedback, and then he'll start designing and basing it on what he's seen. What I liked about it is he took some really difficult topics that we were dealing with on the accountability committee and was able to use Miro boards and other things to kind of bring us through. And the pre-work gave us everything that we needed to think about to frame our mind for the next day. And he made a comment to us that I think resonated with me is I like to do the pre-work because sometimes you just wake up and go to these things in the morning and your frame of mind is a little bit different. And the pre-work really helps us work through those issues.
Well, and it allows us that opportunity to reflect, to
Right.
sit on. I mean, I'm very much, I go back
Yeah.
and reflect at every conversation, every interaction, and it's like how, what could I have done differently, or, how to strengthen it, and just, I think it helps build stronger leadership capacity for me. So I do like that. So I'm all for pre-homework. So sorry, guys, but okay, Councilmember Marcin.
Thank you, Mayor. I'll be quick about this. Just some additional feedback for the facilitator, and I think this is the point maybe when I hear the feedback from my council teammates that I'm hearing is when you are on a campaign, there's often a kind of mode you have to switch into. All right, I'm going to get my 3 minutes out, my 5 minutes out, whatever that is to work your way through it. I think that naturally creates kind of invulnerability. I think from my perspective, I would love to be a little more vulnerable with my council teammates in conversation with them than to open myself up in that way rather than, and this is a personal thing for me, like I'm not putting that shield up of like, this is who, this guy is. Be able to communicate as clearly and as plainly as possible, I think is the goal. Thanks.
Thank you. And then I think you had more on your list? Okay. Okay.
And thank you, Councilor Marsing. You get me. That's what I'm going for. Yeah. When it came to citizen assemblies, we actually did throw stuffed fish at each other, so that's how we knew we could talk. And so I'm just saying that is one of their techniques. That's actually kind of worked. And then how we
I
are
have
organized.
a chancla, so I was like,
Do
we'll
ya?
just start throwing
Do
those
ya?
puppies.
Yeah, think quick. Duck, dodge, dive. I made a note to myself, and I want to say thank you for including Crystal's suggestion that we talk about how we work on emails, collectively, because that was something I wanted to see included. So I thought all the rest of that was good, and I didn't have anything else to say until the afternoon discussion topics and the how now wow exercise. So if someone else wants to jump in before then, I'll yield the microphone.
Councilmember Popkin.
Really controversial suggestion here, which is under how we connect. I don't see the farmers market events that we did last year listed under the outreach events. I was wondering if I presume that wasn't an exhaustive list. It was an representative list. But just wanted to make sure we don't lose sight of that. I thought that was a really great way to connect with people.
I actually do think that goes away with Councilmember Yarborough's end of her. So this would be the right time to bring it back up during
Then
this
I would
conversation.
love to honor her
Yeah.
legacy there and bring that back up here and continue that.
Yep, that's the idea. These are the things that were sanctioned by the city council, that we planned, that, were the events that were there.
And maybe it was exhaustive.
And so, yeah, I think it's time to it sounds to me like you are interested in rethinking some of those.
Yeah.
Yes. Well, I'd love to make sure that that's added to the mix. It was a great way for those who weren't on council last year or didn't go to the farmers market for that. You get residents from around the city and the county who come up and just ask questions. Some people just moved there 2 months ago and just want to know something. We are promoting Ride Longmont because that was fresh last year, and just letting people know that there was a $2 ride share that the city runs. It's a great opportunity to just kind of get the word out on certain things for people who don't come to us. So I'd love to make sure that that's added to the mix.
Yeah, it was a different population of people that we typically see on Tuesday nights or even coffee with council. So, yeah, I think when we have this discussion, being able to bring those, have that space to be able to come up with new things or continue
And
adopting.
we'll probably add that to pre-work with the facilitator to kind of let you all think ahead of time about what type of events, or does it look different? So.
And what
that-
kind of support does that
And
need?
what-
Because Councilmember Yarborough's mention was just she's going to be there and anyone can join her, as opposed to this is an event from the city
formal,
council.
yes.
And that's the only difference. So, certainly, if there are other things and other ways that you would like to reach people, that's exactly what this conversation is for.
Sounds good. Okay, Councilmember Kalkofer.
Thank you, Mayor. And for during lunchtime, would that be a working lunch where we're doing the tour at the same time, or?
On day one, the idea was a lunch and a restorative walk around the area. So one of the things that Councilmember Christ had mentioned was it would be nice to have a more leisurely pace and some time to think and reflect. Oftentimes, we're running right through lunch, so it does kind of depend on, the conversation. We might still end up running right through lunch. But the idea was to give you a break, let you take a walk. The tour would be the next morning. Yeah, during like breakfast time.
Okay.
Okay, so, yes, Councilmember Christ.
Okay, home stretch. Oh, wait, we have a second day. Never mind. Okay. I don't have very much on the second day either. Okay, so number 4, the afternoon discussion topics. Of course, we want to hear from staff all the parameters and the things that are in the pipeline now so that we have an idea of capacity. I think last year we said we had about 10% of your time. So if it's less than that, we need to know. But I was looking at the how, now, wow exercise, and right after that, another YouTuber came on and talked about, his name was James Taylor, and he talked about putting out problems and everybody coming up with ideas. And so I began to think, the thing about the how, now, wow is how do you know what the ideas are? Or like, is there a process for that before that? Because you're assessing on an XY graph how viable they are. And so his name is James Taylor, just like the singer, except for it wasn't the singer. And he talked about a 7-3-5. I'm modifying that a little bit. So 7 of us, we all have a piece of paper and there's a problem, and you write 3 solutions and you pass it to your right. And you have 5 minutes to do this, so it moves pretty quickly. And you're adding to it. And so it kind of neutralizes the idea of who speaks loudest. We had a group where we had a gentleman who was brilliant, but he never spoke. And when we did insist that he say something, he had something brilliant to say. And I think we've had that on our council before, where, we've had people that maybe didn't want to turn on their microphones, but then when they did talk, it was impactful. So it just kind of neutralizes that. People that need to take a little more time, or maybe they're not as auditory. Do you know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. And so it gets all those ideas down, and some of them may be fluff, and some of them may be have content, and some of them may work really well with another suggestion that makes it more brilliant. So I just wondered, and because Councilor Popkin has more experience with this, is there a way to get to the ideas before you go to the how now wow process.
Okay. Okay, so I'm gonna bump Popkin up to respond.
No, it's a great question, Councilmember Christ. I appreciate you thinking of how people show up into different activities and how they participate in general, and kind of how ideas materialize through discussion. First, to be clear, like, it was a suggestion as a potential activity. It doesn't have to be scripture here. If we think there are multiple different exercises in this vein or spirit that can achieve a similar purpose. I think the intent was to try to get at something that allows us to not just generate ideas. So that's always like the precursor of this, is we have some idea generation, or it's reflecting brainstorming earlier in the day, or however kind of the facilitator wants to structure that. And it's a way to sort through, types of problems or strategies that we don't know how to do but want to do, that we know how to do now and we can do now, and then things that would be amazing if we knew how to do it and if there was any realm of reason, but they're much more aspirational. And so it's kind of a way to just kind of filter different types of ideas that have materialized throughout the day. But again, that's just one framework of many that kind of achieve a similar purpose there. Does that? So I hope that clarifies it. The very intent of running that effectively would be to come from brainstorming before that, and it's more of a way to sort through those ideas.
Okay, so my thought, and I'm going to interject here, is rather than having a specific activity delineated on our agenda right now, that maybe we just have some kind of exercise that allows us to, to share out those ideas or what that would look like. Just the specific, I think we're getting too much in the weeds, and I do want to give some autonomy to the facilitator to bring in what they know, their expertise, and we're not putting such strict guardrails. And, otherwise, we could plan it and we could facilitate it. And I don't think that would go well. Yes, go ahead.
If I can add something, one of the things that you all mentioned and you all agreed upon was bringing in the LEDP,
yes,
the partner organizations into this conversation. Tactically, as I was thinking about my section where you wanted to hear about headwinds, tailwinds, resources, and then the piece of bringing in systems thinking, I actually want to bring them in as part of my systems thinking conversation, because that's a good way to take systems thinking in its general concept, as I'm going to talk about it, and then really actually bring those groups into it, because they're part of a system that we all work collectively on. And I think there's going to be a really good connection into that to kind of give a practical example of what we're talking about and how we approach the world. So if that's okay, that's where I'd like to fit that in.
No, and the bulk of this section then would be those first 3 bulleted items. And then kind of the exercise would be how we as a council bring it all together.
Right, and then the facilitator was telling us, he threw out, is it a Miro board? Is it a sticky wall? It's things that you're talking about, but he actually wants to talk to us about this conversation, and then start framing up based on what the feedback you're giving us. So he may say, I think based on what I've heard, this is the best tactical approach for this type of conversation. And so there are pieces that we still need to fill out. Once you agree to the concepts, then we'll work with the facilitator to bring that together.
Okay, thank you. We have a couple more people in the queue. Councilmember Kalkoffer.
Moving on to the lunch for the second day, I really like working lunches, and my son Alder, ever since I decided to get involved in government, even when I was on the boards, has become very interested in government, and I really want our youth to start to get involved. One of the things that most of us heard during the Pints and Perspectives is the community wants the younger generation to get more involved. So I'm kind of curious what your thoughts are for that second lunch and how we can engage with the youth to give them the bug to participate in a civic manner. So I was wondering what thoughts you had.
Yeah, thank you so much, Mayor Hidalgo-Farring and Councilmember Kalkhofer. One of the things that we've been talking about with the mayor is how can we get the youth council more engaged with city council? They would like that. The mayor has asked me to take a look at that. So I actually met with Jenny Diaz-Leon and Giselle Chico this last, I guess, 2 weeks ago from the Youth Council. And they really were talking about how excited the kids were to get engaged. And so we thought that the retreat would be the perfect time to start having those conversations where, I think we would probably throw out some discussion questions like, youth council members, why don't you share with council members the things that are important to you that you're looking at that are the biggest issues either coming up or opportunities, and vice versa. So we really want it to be a two-way discussion, not where just the council members are necessarily talking to the youth members, but that the youth are also informing you with what their ideas are. And so we were thinking about doing some sort of a lunch activity with the youth council during that time in order to gain that wisdom from each other.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah.
And the other piece, and I want this to be just the beginning. So the kickstart. I mean, we had thrown around ideas when I was the liaison to the youth council that, we might, like the way we have the legislative dinners, that we'd have, a council to council dinner or something. So it was kind of looking at timelines and schedules, and the kids, they're so busy.
Yeah,
they're so busy. They're more busy than me.
But they would like that ongoing
Yeah.
as well. So we thought that
Yes.
maybe this would be a good kickoff where everybody talks about kind of what their hopes and aspirations are for the community, and then we continue that conversation.
And then
over
there's
time.
opportunity through NLC, the youth council through there, and the work that the kids do in that realm is amazing, and it's a wonderful opportunity. So
It's an amazing group. I'm
it is
excited
an amazing
to-
group.
to
I'm
meet this
excited.
round.
Okay, thank you. So, Councilmember Prieto.
I don't know. So I was just looking at the item number 2 on the first day. The customer satisfaction survey. Is that a resident satisfaction survey that goes out? And are we just talking about like if those are avenues that we still want to take to gain feedback from our residents?
So Mayor Hidalgo-Farring and Councilmember Prieto, what happened at the last retreat was we talked a little bit about this and trying to kind of extend the survey over the year. That during outreach events, the council members would ask different kinds of questions that would kind of enhance the customer satisfaction survey. They have put together additional information for outreach because I think one of the issues with doing it in-house last year was that we maybe didn't get the demographics we were hoping for. And so council was interested in reaching out to some specific target audiences. They'd like to bring back a presentation on what that looks like. So it's not only sharing with you what they're looking at for engagement for the customer satisfaction survey, but kind of the continuation of that discussion around, so you go to these events, what is it that you're doing when you're there? If you're just talking about what's happening on council today, then that's great. We should provide that information. But if you're looking for feedback, what's the feedback you're looking for and how can we help you to support that as you're at these different events? So it's not necessarily, it's kind of a smaller portion of this, but this is the right timing to talk about, this is what we're doing this year for the customer satisfaction survey. And if there's some feedback or target audiences or ways that you'd like to enhance that, we would have big ears listening.
Perfect. And it's going to be hard to like remember everything that day. So if you would just add a note in there, something that I want to see is kind of a feedback loop for youth, speaking about youth. I was just speaking to Hilda today. I got to attend my first youth council meeting, and we were talking about, some of the data that they already collect from their youth as around just needs. But, we were kind of strategizing and thinking about like future opportunities to survey our youth, what that might look like, what youth we would want to survey. And so I'm just thinking specifically, I haven't seen any surveys come out specifically for youth, at least in my experience. So could we partner with the school district where teachers say, hey, before you leave, take this survey, just for us as a council to really understand. And then just like the survey piece, I remember watching council and seeing the council last year kind of, like you said, just a little bit concerned that maybe not all demographics were a part or reflected in that feedback. And so I would just say youth and then families as well. I don't know that we're capturing our families, probably because they're cooking dinner after work and they're super busy. So So if you would just put a little note in there so we can make sure we think about those two groups, and then I have lots of ideas on how. And I am the best salesman ever, so you put me in an event and I'll go survey everybody. So yeah,
That's wonderful. And of course, last year was the first year, or the last time was the first time we had done the customer satisfaction survey in-house.
Great.
And so that was something that we recognized as well, and that, we're going to be bringing back different opportunities. When I spoke with Jenny and Giselle from the youth center, they're staff at the youth center. Pardon me, I think I said they were part of the youth council. They're the adult liaisons to the youth council. And what they said was that people will come to the youth council and ask them questions, get feedback, but then they're never really part of what happens next. And so they were very interested in that ongoing conversation and being a part of it and making a difference and kind of catching that bug that Councilmember Culkofer was talking about.
yeah. And just to mention, just kind of touching on what you were saying, council member, and then also Sandy, with how do we engage the youth in this process, right? Like, how do we connect that? And so maybe we're going to be talking about later tonight us taking positions on certain matters. And so maybe the youth have the opportunity to come before council and take positions on certain matters that we're deciding on, and allowing them to have a space and that public invited to be heard, to advocate and learn those super important skills. So of course it's their decision. So we'll ask them.
Very interested is what I understand. Very interested. Yeah.
I'm glad to hear that. Okay. Okay, and we're kind of winding down with this conversation. Councilmember Popkin?
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. Sandy, thanks for all the work on this already. I think one of the helpful pieces of seeing a draft agenda like this is it makes you think, what do we have covered and what don't we have covered? And without getting too much into topic areas, because we've already brainstormed on some issues or priorities, and I know that'll be part of the focus, what I see is who we are, how our organization works, how we're connecting with the community. And the one thing that feels missing to me is how we represent Longmont regionally. And this is something that Councilmember Culkofer and I have talked about a little bit with regard to kind of transportation, and there are so many different transportation boards. How do we make sure that we're not crossing wires, that left hand isn't doing something different than the right hand? When I think we have mostly shared goals, or we're going to figure out from the retreat, what our shared goals are. And then how do we make sure that we are all extensions of the same organism when we get into the regional conversation? So if folks are open to that, I don't know if that would best fit into day one on how do we work together?
How are we organized?
Yeah, how are we organized? Or day two in the afternoon before evaluation after lunch, how do we represent kind of this council and this organization and the city regionally? I'll just add one more anecdote here. I've talked with an RTD board member or two, and they don't really understand that Longmont is now a 100,000 person city. They thought we were 80% of that. And I think that is a huge concern if we are trying to make headways and progress with multiple regional organizations and other partners in the community at the county level or at the the intercity level, or with the whole Dr. Cog region. So that was what felt missing to me, and that would be a broader step back conversation than just kind of how do we advance this one issue. And to be clear, it doesn't have to be just on transportation. I think that's just one example of a regional issue that we all have our hands in different buckets there.
Okay. No, I understand. And so I'm trying to kind of think about how that would, I'll let you figure out where that kind of fits in. I was kind of thinking about, okay, where could that kind of lead into? The other piece that as we're looking at, maybe do a little snippet as we're going over not necessarily organizational capacities, but just the overall home rule, because that was so last Saturday I was at the Mayors and Metro Mayors Caucus retreat, and let me tell you, the other mayors were jumping over. Oh, you're Longmont mayor, and then they were rushing over. It was Longmont's doing great stuff, and so I think depending on what avenue or what group you're talking to, people who are well informed know what Longmont's doing and know our reputation, and that we have led the way in a lot of initiatives with housing affordability and what we've done with our housing authority and transportation, microtransit. So, so there are other, organizations that aren't as in tune, and I it's okay, that's a you problem, you guys, not you, but. but then it's an RTD. I'm like, come on, pay attention to what's going on. And so but I do like that we're bringing, that we're all on the same page as far as what we're sharing out to other regional areas. The other thing, yes, but the other thing is there's been a great concern around home rule and infringement on home rule and how these policies, and even though we might be aligned with them, it's like, well, we don't have a concern because we're aligned with their housing but what happens when it's not? It's like, yeah, this is great until it's not. So, kind of getting a handle and we as a council, how we can maintain and preserve that while still working collectively and cooperatively with the state, collaboratively with the state. Council Member Chris, you're next here.
Well, I was going to move on to the second day, but
hold on. I'm going to let. Did you want to speak? Because I think Councilmember Popkin wanted to address this particular.
Yeah, thanks, Mayor. I'll be super quick here.
Yes.
I think I fully agree with you that it is a they or you problem in those situations, but it's our responsibility to make sure that
Yes.
So just I think as we think about how do we make sure that Longmont's presence is understood, who we are and kind of the organization that we are and our goals are understood, and how we fit into the broader region makes sense. I'll look to maybe Sandy or Harold here. Like, how have these kinds of regional conversations happened in the past, if they have? And, do you have any recommendations on like how we integrate this into kind of fitting this through? I mean, actually.
Yeah, so I think it depends. A lot of times it's actually things like the metro mayors or places like that where they're talking out about what we're doing. What I would say on this is tactically, they're also wanted this facilitator for another reason, in that this facilitator is connected to state agencies and other local governments, and I would actually say we would need to lean on him for this, because we had this very conversation and he facilitated it with the accountability committee, and
That's the RTD accountability.
One of the things we focused on was local government and state cooperation with each other and how we partner. And I would say we would need to lean on him because that's his experience.
Sure.
And so tactically there was some thought in the selection of the mediator or the facilitator for that conversation.
Yeah, that's super helpful. I'll just maybe make a distinction here. There's how we partner. I think that's a very important conversation to have, how we partner effectively with other organizations or other governments, and how we as council members represent Longmont in different settings when we happen to be the person on Dr. Cog or the person at Northwest Rail or the person at North Area Transportation Alliance, to make sure that we are consistently advocating for Longmont in alignment with the priorities that we've set.
Yeah, and I just think he's probably the expert in that, and so we'll need to lean on him.
Thank you.
Although part of it is your policy setting as you go through this legislative work, right?
Right.
As these bills come up and you take positions on these bills, knowing what those are and knowing where the council stands so that you have that opportunity to speak on behalf of the council when you all do decide to take a position on things is critically important.
Okay.
Well, then that's the technical piece that we may spend some time on based on this conversation is council adopts a policy, we support the policy, and how we move through that process versus what does it mean if council adopts a policy and the mayor doesn't agree with it? How do they? So those are some pieces we may need to somehow bring into this conversation.
Okay. Thank you. Sounds good. Councilmember Christ.
Okay, second day, morning discussion topics, reviewing the vision and discussing the work plan. I think that's all self-explanatory and a good, position to be in. But I was actually looking down at number 4 with the retreat evaluation, and it got me thinking that later on, do we ever come back with a follow-up to say, how are we doing? And is this what we actually intended? Because even though, when we discuss things, sometimes we're talking, but we hear different things depending on who we are and how we process information. And so sometimes you come back and you think, well, I actually thought this was going to go a different way, or I thought we were talking about some aspect of it that was a little bit different. So I'm just wondering also if we can just come back and say, do we need to tweak this a little? Is this, where we want to be?
Do you mean after you have
After we-
created that?
Yeah, and maybe a couple of months after.
Yeah. I do believe that what we've done in the past, Mayor Hidalgo-Faring and Councilmember Christ, is that we have put together more specifics on that work plan, brought it back to the council for official approval, and then given updates on, I think, a quarterly basis is what we have done in the past. Happy to continue that practice or augment it depending on what works the best for you. You'll see a up-to-date one as part of the packet because you'd asked for some pre-work, rather than presentations. You wanted to just see it ahead of time. So you'll see that update of the last work plan in your packet ahead of time as well.
Okay, thanks.
And so do we have, because I'm kind of like, I feel like we've beat a dead horse here. Is there, so a couple of the thing, I see a couple of people in the queue. Are you wanting to add something additional or, okay.
Just what she said.
Just what she
Yeah.
said?
Yeah.
Add to what? Okay, well, I mean, add to the agenda. I'm talking about the agenda itself. Is there anything that you wanted to add or change to this agenda? Okay. Okay, so can we make a motion to just move forward with this agenda? I really appreciate that. Thank you. Okay, adjourn.
Move forward with
That's number 6.
with revisions.
Okay, so since Councilmember Christ has moved it, I'm gonna give her the floor. Go ahead.
Okay. I move acceptance of the council retreat agenda with added input.
Okay, so the motion has been made to approve the retreat agenda with revisions. I'm going to turn off some mics, getting feedback. And it was seconded by Council McCoy. All those in favor? Let's go ahead and vote. Yeah. Never mind. Yep. So that carries unanimously. And now we're on to, thank you, general business. Thank you. And we have Resolution 2026-08, a resolution of the Longmont City Council approving the memorandum of understanding between the city and Thorn Nature Experience for the use of grant funding for Nature Kids, Jóvenes de la Naturaleza, Boulder County program. And we have a staff presentation.
Yeah, Mayor, Council,
Yes.
before staff is
Coming.
as they're coming down, one of the reasons I wanted them to present is late last year, Mayor Peck and I had the opportunity to spend some time with them. And I thought this is a program that I wanted them to spend a little bit of time on so you can see what they're doing and how they're interacting because it's touching a large segment of our community and bringing them into nature. And so I just wanted them to have the opportunity to present on this. It's a really cool program.
Okay, thank you.
Make this big.
Do you know how to make this full screen?
What's the full screen control?
Maybe?
What's going on? It's not even.
So can we take a 5-minute break? We'll go ahead and take a 5-minute break. back to their seats, and we can go ahead and begin our presentation. And I'm going to kick it on over to you all.
All right. Cool. Thank you very much, Mayor and council members, for your time and consideration this evening. My name is Taylor Gifford, and I'm the Stewardship Supervisor for Parks, Recreation, and Open Space.
And I am Ruben Carrillo. I'm a youth program specialist at the Longmont Youth Center.
A couple other people I want to introduce because they'll be potentially answering questions at the end of the presentation. One is Rachel Brett. She's from Thorn Nature Experience. We have Hilda from Children, Youth, and Families, the Children, Youth, and Families Manager. And then my supervisor, Danielle Cassidy. She's the Open Space Manager. And then please be aware, this is per agenda item 5A, that there was a correction made to that MOU attachment between when the packet was originally published last week and today. So council has the correct version in front of you, and I'm happy to answer any questions about that amendment before we start or at the end of the presentation, whatever works for y'all. All right, so we're here tonight to talk about Nature Kids Longmont. This is a Generation Wild grant funded by Great Outdoors Colorado. Wanted to do a really quick overview of the grant itself before we dive into the fun stuff. So Generation Wild, again, Great Outdoors Colorado, or GOCO grant, that funds community-wide efforts connecting youth and families to nature. Our primary partner on this grant is Thorn Nature Experience. They are the primary applicant and the fiscal agent for this grant. So here's what makes this grant really exciting. This is a major investment in the Longmont community. The total grant award for Boulder County is $2.3 million. And there's about $1 million coming directly into the Longmont community, or Nature Kids Longmont. And this supports the city of Longmont as an organization, as well as roughly a dozen other local partners. So the city plays a really central role here. As an organization, our piece of the pie is $230,000 over a 5-year grant term. And that's what the MOU before you tonight represents, is that $230,000. So this is a long-term commitment. It's not a one-off program. This is a 5-year grant term with 50-50 match, meaning that the city covers half of the total program costs over 5 years. And that allows us to build programs thoughtfully and sustainably without having too much of a financial impact on the city up front.
So from the get-go, Thorn Nature Experience looked to ensure that the vision and purpose driving this grant application resonated with the residents of Boulder County. Over the course of 7 months, over 500 youth and their families participated in a survey to identify what kind of programming they would like to see result from this process. Some of the key themes that came out of this survey were that programming should focus on cultural connections, health and wellness, education, accessibility and access, and fostering agency. These values align with our current programming and will serve as a valuable foundation to what future programming should look like.
All right, so city goals. I know you guys have seen these things 1,000 times, so I won't go into too much detail. These are obviously council priorities and the Envision Longmont plan on the screens here. These guide how we serve our community today and Longmont into the future, and this project directly advances almost all of these goals, in particular by strengthening access to and stewardship of our public lands, environmental education, and community well-being. And all of this supports a more sustainable and resilient Longmont. One core piece of this I want to point out is as Longmont grows and housing becomes more compact and higher density, our parks, trails, and open spaces become increasingly essential community infrastructure. And these are spaces that attract families and businesses to Longmont. And this work will help families safely access these spaces and feel a real sense of belonging.
So one of the many goals through this grant application process is the expansion of the Navigators program at the Longmont Youth Center. So what is the Navigators program? Simply put, it's a program that builds connection between the youth and their community by getting them outside to explore what the city and surrounding area has to offer. So what are we expanding? The Navigators program will begin to offer winter activities such as snowshoeing, sledding, and cold weather skill building programs. We're going to invest in more equipment such as bikes and kayaks, and we're going to begin to offer the Navigators program twice a week as opposed to once a week as it's currently offered. The Navigators program will also begin to offer participants the opportunity to attend workshops focused on outdoor safety and skill building. Why does the Navigators program matter? It matters because we're able to expand access to low-cost, confidence-building outdoor activities. We're able to help youth feel comfortable out exploring nature independently, and we're able to strengthen protective factors through consistent pro-social engagement. I'm going to borrow a phrase from a conference that I attended last week, and this phrase is topophilia, or the love of place. This is a concept that we try to foster in all of the youth that participate in Navigators, so that in 20 years, they can remember the times that they came to the youth center, got on the bus, and came down to St. Vrain's Creek to jump in the water just a couple of blocks down from this building. They're going to be able to pass on the skills that they learned through the Navigators program when they're helping future youth catch their first fish in the St. Vrain River, as they did, you know, coming to the youth center in this day and age. We also want kids to be able to pass on the skills that they've learned when they're floating down a river, you know, taking their own kids down the side of a mountain on a sled, or holding their best friend's hand as they jump into a moving body of water for the first time.
These are just some pictures of existing Navigator participants. Is that right?
Yep.
Cool. It's a good one. All right, backyard to backcountry. So this is a free, new, obviously, bilingual, multi-generational family program designed by Open Space. The focus is getting outside, building confidence and skills, and strengthening connection to nature, to each other, and to the broader Longmont community. So the recruitment piece of this is important. Our recruitment will be intentionally targeted towards families who we think will benefit the most from this, and that includes folks who live in higher density housing and Spanish-speaking households. That recruitment will be coordinated with partners, so partners like Thorn Nature Experience and also Children, Youth, and Families in our Community and Neighborhood Resources program. As far as program structure and timing, Backyard to Backcountry will run from May to September, starting this year, hopefully. This serves up to 50 participants per year, or 10 to 12 families, depending on family size. And it's designed to meet families where they are and at their level of comfort in the outdoors. So with that in mind, there's a monthly experience model that we're using. So there will be 2 activities offered each month, and folks can participate in one, the other, or both, depending on their availability and comfort level. So the first activity is an expand activity, and these are local, short, beginner-friendly activities that meet people where they are if they don't have a ton of experience or comfort in the outdoors. So these are things like neighborhood wildlife walks, indigenous storytelling, gardening activities, low-key events. The second one is an explore activity, and these are a little bit more based on skill building and deeper engagement. So these are things like stewardship projects, navigation or first aid trainings, and then day trips beyond Longmont. We'll begin and end the year with a full cohort celebration. So we'll kick off the year with a big welcome dinner, and then we'll end the year with an overnight camping experience at Calwood, which will be super fun. The reason it's called Backyard to Backcountry with a 2 is not just because I'm cheesy, but also because it's an optional 2-year program. So folks can participate in year 1 and call it good, or they're welcome to participate in the second year so that they can, in year 1, do some of the more beginner level activities, and in year 2, branch out into some of those more advanced or activities that require a higher comfort level. Sorry, I'm not done. As far as who's involved, these programs will be led by a grant-funded seasonal bilingual coordinator, myself, our environmental education coordinator, our volunteer coordinator, and other city staff like our rangers and some members of our ecosystem management crew, as well as community partners like Wildlands Restoration Volunteers, Harvest of All First Nations, and Calwood. And the accessibility piece is really important here, so we wanted to remove barriers and support safe and comfortable participation. So all gear, food, all of that stuff will be provided for everyone. And then transportation, we've set aside some budget for transportation options for folks as well. Just more pictures.
And so one of the key components in that process will be to hire a seasonal bilingual coordinator. This position will be essential because it will ensure equitable access by addressing the lack of bilingual staff in open space and providing seamless bilingual support for the whole family to participate. Key functions of this position will be to coordinate programming for navigators and backyard to backcountry, aligning work across the divisions. This position will build capacity to engage more youth in the navigators program and build trust through consistent, culturally responsive staff presence. This position will also strengthen coordination between departments and community partners and maintain program quality without overextending existing staff. And some more pictures, and with that, we will open the floor. Oh,
Sorry. Sorry, I didn't warn you about that. I have just a little bit to say about this last picture. This is kind of cool. So these are pictures from the community surveying process we did in advance in preparation for this grant. So we did a lot of community surveying, which was like an online survey, but we also wanted to reach kids where they're at. And so these are Longmont kids drew these pictures or painted these pictures, some more abstract than others. But the goal was for them to show us kind of the ideal outdoor environment that they wish they could have in Longmont, or that they think they have in Longmont. So you can see a lot of the things you would expect, a lot of nature and infrastructure. There are trees, and there's a turtle pond, which is very cute. There are bridges, there are tree houses. There's, on one of them, it looks like a Longmont gondola, which potential capital project, who knows? But the piece that's really cool is a lot of these pictures included people. So they included families together. There's, I think, some music and dancing going on. So there's a real element of like community and shared joy. So what I love about this is that kids aren't just asking for nature, right? They're asking for places that feel safe, welcoming, fun, and shared. And this grant gives us the opportunity to build programs that reflect those wants. There we go. Thank you.
Now we're on to questions. Councilmember Kalkofer.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, staff. Great presentation. I do want to say how much I truly love this program. And at the last public forum, Lance already left, but Lance did emphasize that we need more meaningful things to do for our youth. And I believe this partnership would deliver on that. And in an era where our kids are stuck on their screens, I think this connects them to our beautiful city and our beautiful open space to really drive that connection for our kids to our nature. And this is exactly the kind of investment I think our youth deserves.
Okay, Councilmember Popkin.
You know, I frankly wish you had presented before we were talking about our retreat, because this sounds a hell of a lot more fun. Thank you. This sounds like excellent work. Really excited to see the grant come to fruition here and the cohort be able to get going. I have one policy-related question as it might integrate with this. So last September, the previous city council gave direction to create a comprehensive strategy regarding how we manage e-bikes in our community. And one of those pillars of the strategy was going to be education. And I'm just wondering if this is an opportunity to integrate some early stage e-bike education and safety education and awareness into this. You don't have to give me an answer now. I'm just kind of posing the question, and maybe a broader question, like to Harold initially as well, of like how this could integrate or how this may or may not fit into, admittedly, kind of the broader internal planning conversations that are underway on e-bike safety right now.
I think let us think about it
Yeah.
and see how that works. I think there's opportunities to maybe bring in pieces of it, but I need to understand the depth of the grant and what they have to do. But it may be an opportunity as the rangers are talking to them to say, hey, if you have e-bikes, you know, when we talk about trails, here are the rules on the trails and things like that. So without giving a definitive, I think we can talk about it and figure out if there's a space for that to fit in.
Yeah, purely posing the question, it's an opportunity, I think, where we have kind of the next generation of Longmont here. We're trying to think about education and safety and exploration. And great, thank you.
Councilmember Marcin.
Thank you so much, and thank you to staff. This is awesome, and I see your enthusiasm about it too, which is so cool. Getting kids out into nature and into our community in different places. I'm trying to place some of the locations in the photos and just the places you access. So thank you for bringing it. Excited to see it move forward. I guess my question is more, how do you envision, getting word out about a program like this? How do you envision getting kids, having kids find you, right? Having families find you? Because the more access people have, the more information that they have about the programs that we do offer within the city, the better off we'll be. So just a question generally about what that pipeline is and how maybe these grant dollars can help expand that to some degree. Like how do we get kids involved here?
So yeah, I can start with my piece is the Backyard to Backcountry program.
Yeah.
And, we've talked about recruitment a little bit, and that's something that we have to figure out in the next few months is exactly what our plan is. But the plan is to work with Thorne specifically. They've done this work already in the city of Lafayette and in the city of Boulder, so they have a really good framework for recruitment and how we reach these communities specifically. And then we also want to work with Children, Youth, and Families, who is already reaching many of these youth, and maybe some of them want to get involved on a family level rather than just by themselves in some of this work. And then the other piece is working with our community and neighborhood resources team to identify different pathways where we can reach the communities we want to reach with this program. I would say if needed, for the Backyard to Backcountry program, there are only 50 spots available, at least in year one. I would anticipate those spots fill pretty easily. There is the option to put it on social media and advertise that way, and I think we do want to advertise our work once it's started, but I'm holding off on that piece for the recruitment process initially because I do want to make sure that we're hitting those communities we want specifically without just making it available like summer camp or something to everyone at the same time. Yeah. So that's the original thought, but also it's still in process. We're figuring that piece out.
Great. Thank you. Councilmember Prieto.
So my questions were somewhat similar. Kind of what does that referral process look like? Is it from the school district? Is it from specific programs? And just something that came to mind while I was sitting here. My husband had some experience as a youth in the wilderness work camp programs, which was actually really beneficial and taught him a lot of life skills to the point where, like, if we needed to go and live in the mountains today, I would feel pretty confident about that. And so I'm just, beyond just kind of the population that we're thinking of too, I just want to put a plug in for the youth maybe who are struggling right now to find healthy ways to cope. And I know being in the environment can be some options. I know the youth center has some programs too for some youth, and I don't know what that looks like. Maybe it's a separate program or a separate day for specific youth, maybe who've been referred to. Remind me of the program, Harold. Rewind.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm just thinking about that group of youth as well, and maybe it might not be the full summer program, but maybe it's specific outings that can be tied to this grant and kind of just experience. Maybe it's overnight camping or whatever that looks like. But I just know that could be really beneficial. And then another question I had was the age group of the youth you're serving. Could you clarify what the age group is?
So at the youth center, kids between ages of 11 and 17 can come to participate in any of the programs at the youth center. And I want to say, as far as the outreach, the youth center is a magical place, and I wish, everybody knew about it or just had it on their radar to just come over and, hang out or, participate in Navigators or the sound booth that we have upstairs to record music or any of those things. But as far as outreach, we are in the schools. We are attending many of the city events that happen, throughout the year, and we're constantly reaching out to families that have either, come to the youth center, popped up on our radar, through some other manner, and just reminding them constantly of, what all we have to offer. And so it's always an open invitation, as well as, being an open invitation to community members. If they have any skills that they want to come to share with the kids or any ideas for example, a work camp, that we could get plugged into. We invite those and we cherish those, and we just try to make it happen in any way that we can.
Perfect. Thank you so much. And hopefully as this program continues to grow, we can continue to increase the capacity for the kids that we serve. So I'm excited to see the pictures and the outcome of this grant. Thank you.
Is it okay if I chime in on that? So I'm Rachel Brett. I'm the Director of Community Programs at Thorn. And I just want to give a little broader context because I think it will answer both your outreach and your ideas about other programs. So, Taylor mentioned that this is a $2.35 million grant, $230,000 over 5 years coming to the city of Longmont through this MOU. But about $1 million of that, it's countywide, but about $1 million is concentrated in Longmont. So that looks like a couple of different things. It looks like other partners doing programming directly serving Longmont, which encompass a lot of what you're describing. So one example is El Centro Amistad doing mental health, youth, and family walks. So there is a huge range. Growing Gardens doing programming. There's youth jobs and internships. There's I Have a Dream to be able to add in some outdoor programming and their some of their programs at some of the schools. There's other programs happening with the youth center. There's family camping trips at Calwood. There's summer camp scholarships at several different Thorn, as well as some overnight camps as well. So really trying to hit on all the different entry points to the outdoors and find so that families and youth can find the ways that they want to engage. And mental health is a huge piece of that. And then to the outreach piece as well. So the original GoCo grant that started almost 10 years ago now was focused on Lafayette. And so we have sort of a model that we've been using, and our team, we have a team of 5 that are Nature Kids staff, and 3 of those folks are, their main role is community outreach and engagement. And one of them is based here in Longmont. They're all part of the community that we serve. They are based in Longmont and in Lafayette and in the communities we're working. They're all native Spanish speakers, so really have built these really strong relationships. And so those community liaisons will play a huge role in this outreach. And as part of that, we have in Lafayette, we have both a youth advisory board and a Promotores parent leadership group. And rather than start something new in Longmont, because there are already groups doing that great work, we are passing through some of these funds to support the Youth Center's Youth Council and to connect with them, as well as Brújula, which is a community organization here in Longmont that is community-led. It's not even it's a community-led group. And so investing in them to support some of that outreach as well, because they are already here and rooted in this community and have those connections. And then lastly, and then if you have something to add, but lastly, Nature Kids has about 50 partners across the county, and these include all these program providers I've mentioned, but they also include about half of those 50 partners are community agencies and folks doing direct service work, and so and meeting direct needs, and that is where we connect with the majority of the families as well. So in Lafayette, we hardly ever haven't really turned anyone away, and I would say that 98% of the families we serve, I can confidently say, either would qualify for free and reduced lunch or are BIPOC, and our goal is to get folks involved in nature, no matter what the barriers they faced. And so even if you are wealthy, if you're a person of color, you've faced barriers because our outdoor industry has said this isn't for you. So we are not asking folks for their income level, but we are not having a problem in identifying and working with the folks who aren't getting all of these opportunities that Boulder County has to give. So hope that answers your question a little bit. Yeah, and I think you have more to say.
I just wanted to address the rewind component of it too, because so when youth come into the youth center, they come in through various avenues.
Hilda, can you come a little closer to the mic? Yeah.
Yes. So rewind is only one of the avenues that they come into the youth center, and so when youth come into the youth center, it is that prevention.
Rewind for people who may not be familiar with
so rewind is the program that we have between children, youth, and families and the municipal probation, where youth, instead of receiving a ticket if they have a negative interaction with the law, instead of receiving a ticket, they will come into the Rewind program. They will get an assessment. We'll take a look at what their needs are as individuals, as a family, and address those needs. At the successful completion of that program, then the youth will not receive a ticket, and they really honestly get a chance to, as their brain grows and develops, they make the mistakes, they learn from the mistakes, and they grow and move on. With that, at the youth center, we have this combination of both our interventions, where we are addressing the needs that we see that arise, and sometimes they arise, and the kids that are not coming through Rewind, because we serve all families, and families have a variety of needs. And so we have the interventions that are there for them, but we also have that prevention services. And that is integrated, because we know that a kid that maybe came in through the avenue of Rewind will end up in youth council, and the kid who comes in through youth council may end up in Rewind. And so they're all of our kids. So the kids, the program, like Navigators and all of the other prevention services that we have to offer, is there for all of the youth, and Rewind is part of that. The other piece of it is that we have, especially when we do overnight trips, we make sure that one of our licensed clinicians goes with them as well, because we understand that when you take a youth out of their environment and you take away social media and they have open space and they have nothing to do but think, things arise. And so we are very cautious, and we make sure that when we take kids out of their environment, especially if they're away from home overnight, that we have a mental health clinician that is there to support their mental health needs as well. Great. So thank you.
Great, thank you. Mayor Pro Tem McCoy.
Thank you, Mayor. I just want to thank all of you. I saw this at Parks and Open Space earlier this month, and I think this is a great program. And without any further ado, I'd like to... sorry.
Yeah, I was going to give everyone their chance to chat. I do want to say something. So I think 50 is the number of students that you would be, or youth that you would be working with. Is that
For backyard to backcountry.
For backyard to backcountry.
Yep.
Okay. And then that age is also the 11 to 17?
So that's for full families. The only exclusion there is infants and babies. So I think we'll probably plan on like ages 3 and up, so that they can actually get something out of the program. But the idea is, from 3-year-olds to grandparents, the whole family can come.
Okay. Oh, that's wonderful.
Yeah.
So David reminded me. So back when we had the Bronco dollars, remember all that? And so one of the things that came about is, Councilmember Yarborough and I had talked about this idea of space for youth. So the dome piece. During that time, we did put out a survey. I pulled up a Survey Monkey, and staff was great at helping me get that out. It was a little challenging with the district, just because there's liability, privacy issues. I know there was, so I had to kind of had to work around through the union realm, and we worked with members and educators who had children already in the district. So we were looking at those, but just reaching out to different churches and other public spaces and businesses that helped me get that QR code out. And our goal was really to get a substantial amount of youth input. And then that, in conversations I had with the mayor at the time, with Mayor Peck, is we were looking at what was youth wanting? What were they? What did they value? And it was that open space. It was that opportunity to connect with nature and be with friends. And then so we ended up kind of diverting from the whole dome kind of conversation. And it evolved into that $1 million, oh gosh, what was it called? The $1 million, it was like an ideate, like this design challenge that we had for youth. And so we had different youth coming in and presenting these ideas. They were ideating of what they wanted to see. And so much of what I saw in this program was reflected into what youth were saying that they valued and they wanted in this community. So it was really exciting to see how that how that all, we don't put in the hard, guardrails. I know Joan and I were talking, it was like, no, we don't want to sit it so regimented because we don't know. But it's like just this, this concept, and you all work your magic, and this is amazing.
This is where this came from. So when Taylor came to me with that idea of, hey, we have a potential to look at, we started with the Nature Everywhere dollars to kind of to further the research and the surveys. So when she came to me and she's like, this is what we want to do, my response was absolutely, because this is what the youth is saying that they want. And so we're in it, and we've been working on this for 2 years to get from that point to where we are today. But really the survey and what we heard from families and what we heard from youth was really a catalyst for to jump in and say, yes, let's do this.
And so, I work with third graders. I don't know if you all know, but I was a third grade teacher, bilingual teacher in a Title I school. And so many of our kids, when we go out on field trips and we actually leave Longmont, they are like, wow, a lot of them haven't left Longmont. So then to be able to experience outside their own backyard, where they're only going to school and home, and really expand that horizon. So this gives them another avenue to really, and it's the ones who need it the most. And that we're hitting this window, because I feel like there's this window of opportunity where kids are going, a certain direction, and if we can intervene within this time frame, because once they get past, and I've, just through my own experience and the loved one, that it's so hard once they've hit that threshold, once they've passed that mark, it is so hard to get them back. And so this intervention piece, and I'm sorry, it's very touching. So I appreciate you all so much for this, and thank you. So yeah, with that I move. I will move resolution 2026. Where was it at? It was 08. And so the motion was made by me and seconded by Mayor Pro Tem McCoy. Yeah, thanks. So let's go ahead and vote. Okay, and that carries unanimously. Thank you so much. Yay.
Thank you all. Appreciate it.
Okay, and now we are on to the locally funded voucher program. Okay, and then Molly, are you going to bring tears to my eyes? Okay. Oh. We could try.
Still all happy.
Yes. Oh, good. I want
we'll
good
see.
tears. Good tears.
We'll see if we have a. It's housing exit. It's housing exit, but it really is homelessness exit into housing. So it's a little confusing, but trying to come up with voucher opportunities to support those that are exiting homelessness through the Boulder County Coordinated Entry Program. So in 2021, Longmont had the funding opportunity arose through our Human Service Agency funding. This is a set aside from that funding. And Christina and Eliberto are here tonight if we have more specific questions on the homelessness data that's coming or the HSA funding itself. It started out with a $215,000 annual commitment back in 2021, which was implemented in 22. As of 2025, we were at just over $271,000 per year. In total, since the beginning of the program, we've used $1.33 million to support a number of local vouchers that helping individuals exit homelessness. A total of 21, and 13 are in that program today that we're supporting on an ongoing basis. Just to give a little bit of information about our current tenants, the average age is 57, with 6 of those tenants, 6 of 13, so almost closer to half, are over the age of 60, excuse me. So we're trending towards an older demographic, but we do have a couple of folks in their 30s and 40s as well. 5 of our folks live in income restricted housing. That could be LHA, that could be Thistle Properties or others. And then 8 of them use their voucher more like the Housing Choice Voucher Program, where the voucher goes with the person and they're using it in private landlord arrangements. coming up on we've done the program for 4 years, moving into our 5th year. The existing funding that we had allocated the last go around will run short in March 2026. So it's time to update the IGA with the Longmont Housing Authority, who implements the program on behalf of the city. At that point in time, there's a couple of options that council has. We could refresh the IGA and move forward with the existing tenant selection plan, which really talks about our target populations for the vouchers. We could just do cleanups and bring it forward and keep that generally the same, or council has an opportunity at this point to reconsider that if you so wish, based on changing conditions that have happened in the last 4 years. I do have to note that as long as the funding is available, it's always council's discretion to provide the funding or not, but if the funding is available due to fair housing, we wouldn't be able to move the 13 existing tenants off of the program to support a change in that tenant selection plan. However, if they ever dropped off on their own, we could repurpose those resources towards a different direction. The existing 13, the estimated annual commitment to support those individuals is 236 of that 300 for 2026. But either way, we need an IGA to outline the use of that 300,000 by March, or else the LHA will be front funding that tenant support on behalf of those residents. And I should mention if I wasn't clear, the 300,000 is what the set aside was decided by council in the fall of 2025 for the year 2026. So let's talk about our tenant selection plan. Oh, there's a pretty picture that's not going to show. But anyway, some changes that have happened in the last 4 years. In 2021, a focus on individual homelessness was a major focus of HSBC and really nationally. We were having an exacerbation of the homelessness problem, and it was very visible, not that it is not today as well, but it was very much of the time. And the resources for individuals exiting homelessness were limited at the time. Since then, Zinnia has been constructed. This is 55 units that are for those exiting homelessness right now through the coordinated entry program, so locally through Boulder County's programs. And when that tenant selection plan was being put together and sorting through those on the referrals list, there was a focus to ensure that we thought about the way 55 individuals living in one building in a community, how they would function together, build relationships, and wanted to make sure that we built in the best success we could for them, and just try and be really thoughtful about how they would successfully be able to stay at Zinnia. So a lot of the focus was on seniors for that when we were filling Zinnia, to make sure that we're just working on the population that would meld together, jive together. Anyways, not officially focused on seniors, but that is how Zinnia ended up getting filled. In the meantime, just recently, the Suites converted 41 of its vouchers from a traditional waitlist process to referrals from coordinated entry, so focusing on homelessness there as well. Not specifically targeting seniors there, but our mix is more representative of the general population. So we've had some progress here. I would also mention that All Roads is interested in expanding their permanent supportive housing footprint in Longmont, and they were awarded a Home ARP grant through the Boulder County Home Consortium. And so they are using that grant to attempt to improve their footprint here, and their targeted demographic really is individual homelessness as well. So moving into the 2025 family homelessness data, I'm not going to go into the housing retention resources that are out there, but there is certainly a big focus on housing retention, meaning trying to help those that could become homeless, that are precariously housed. And a lot of that centers around rental assistance, temporary rental assistance. But focusing on actual homeless families, we received some data from Boulder County that conglomerates information that comes in from our center, the St. Vrain Valley School District, Safe Shelter of the St. Vrain Valley, El Comite, and really talking about how many families that are homeless have been served in 2025 with this data. So we have some data here showing how many from each of those referral organizations. I will note that SVVSD does include a total count of homeless students at 899. So that's pretty significant. There's further data that breaks that down into very specific categories. Of the rapid rehousing program that exists in Boulder County, 14 of the 25 active households reside in Longmont. And for family case conferencing, we do have that happening on a rolling basis, and it looks like there's about 6 households per month happening about now. So and if there's other questions, we can bring up Christina and Eliberto to dig in here. But really, I think what the message is we've made some good progress on the individual homelessness. When it comes to housing families is a lot harder. The units have to be bigger, so rents are higher. That's more assistance per household. And I think we're dealing with smaller numbers than at least some of the progress that has been made on individual homelessness here in Longmont, specifically with the work that we've done with LHA. So this is a hypothetical. So in your first column, this is our current program. We are serving those 13 households in studios or 1-bedroom apartments. Here's our average assistance per month and per year. And with $300,000, we could increase the service level up to, it says 16.5. It's really 16, but if we're going to try and use every dollar, then we'll call it 16.5 households. If we shifted all of the $300,000, which would have to happen over time, here's the average assistance amounts that we project, and then the number of households that we could serve would be 9.8. So fewer households, bigger units, and more individuals once you count family members. So talking about a combo option, because we would be we would be continuing the 13 individuals currently, we could continue those 13 and then add on 2 families, and this is a very general projection of a 3-bedroom household. So that would be serving 15 households total, and then the idea is that over time, through attrition, any of those 13 exit the program, we could start focusing those resources to adding more family households. So for next steps, if council does wish to modify the tenant selection plan for the locally funded voucher program to target populations of families, then excuse me, staff will be considering how to best implement that. So on a tenant selection plan, it talks about referrals, the referral source, and then in the tenant selection plan that we have on this currently, it talks about limitations that landlords can put in place in accordance with law, of course. But the biggest one for if we're going to shift the focus here would be working with community partners to determine where those referrals come from. It could be a number of organizations, one or a combination. Our center, we were showing the school district, family case conferencing. I think there's a little bit more work to be done there to see what that best arrangement would be. So that would be some work that staff would do. We would also need to draft the new IGA with LHA, and that may end up, depending on the level of effort in determining how that process should go for referrals, it may end up being that we bring forward an IGA in March that at least continues the existing 13, and then we modify it on later with a new tenant selection plan for the extra money and going forward. And that's it. If council wishes to continue the way we have been doing, then we would bring back that IGA in 2026.
Okay.
That's it. So I think that's the question for tonight. Is there any questions from council members?
Yes. Are there any questions? Input? Councilmember Kalkofer.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you for the presentation. I do want to underscore that our first priority would be to fund vouchers for families with school-age kids. We did build a pipeline for individuals through Zinnia and other supportive housing. I'm conflicted because if we do change it, it is less units and less households, but I do think it's more people that we would potentially help. Is that correct?
Presumably, assuming a household, the number of members in that household is higher.
And then of the, let's say 900 homeless students in 23, 24, how many do we think are in Longmont specifically, do we know?
Come on up, Eliberto.
Eliberto's going to help with that one.
I was seeing if we
had it in this list.
Mayor, council members, Eduardo Mendoza, City of Longmont, Human Resource Program Manager. So the data that we got came from the 23-24 McKinney-Vento that is available on the Colorado Department of Education website. And they have a spreadsheet that breaks it down. And so the way that McKinney-Vento defines homelessness is a little different than the way that HUD defines homelessness. So HUD defines homelessness as literal homelessness of being in a place that's not meant for habitation, right? In McKinney-Vento, you can be homeless even if you are living in transitional housing. You can be considered homeless if you're living in transitional housing or if you are doubled up living with family, right? That's considered homeless in McKinney-Vento. So I want to clarify that. One statistic that I thought wasn't interesting when I looked at that data was that in that school year that we have all the data for, 18 students were considered literally homeless. In other words, they were unsheltered the night before, according to McKinney-Vento. So that was an interesting number. And then there's a lot that are in transitional housing. There's a lot that are in motels. And then, of course, I think the biggest number are families that are doubled up because they're struggling financially to maintain their own housing. So they are required to move in with family, multi-generational type of situations. So.
And I do think we need to keep these students stable and have stability so they can go to school and focus on learning and not focus on where they're going to be sleeping that night. So for me, I would want to make sure that we're prioritizing family with school-age children.
Okay, Councilmember Christ.
Thank you, Mayor. And thank you, Molly, and for answering some of my questions via email. Are we defining a family as two parents, or is it a single parent considered a family as well?
A single parent would be considered a family.
Okay.
Yes.
So through my emails, you know that one of my concerns is that basically when you have HUD properties, you can't continue with education while you're receiving assistance. But something that we can do with the vouchers that we offer, and I see that you have 8 that are on the market, the rental and the local rental market. Mm-hmm. Something we can do is prioritize people who can learn life skills and further education. I don't mean higher education, but if you start having children at age 16, sometimes a skill that helps you become more employable is getting a driver's license, and sometimes that's difficult when you have a baby that young. And or get your GED, those kinds of things. So I wonder if we can prioritize families, as Councilor Kalkofer mentioned, with young children or school-age children, who also then can be working to raise themselves out of poverty, which is not an easy thing to do. But we definitely need to give that leg up where we can. And when it's a local voucher, we have less restrictions. So I'd like to see that prioritized for people who need to be able to continue to improve themselves so that they can eventually support their family.
Is there like a discriminatory?
Yeah, so-
Yeah. I was
So
like, yeah,
when we do a tenant selection plan, what we are primarily identifying is referral source. We're not necessarily defining families. Yes, we do have more local control. It's a locally funded voucher. We're not subject to all the HUD rules. However, we are always subject to fair housing. And what we would really do is in identifying a referral source, for example, if we used the school district as a referral source, then you're getting children with school-age children. But putting preferences on the vouchers other than for things like disability or things that are more in line with HUD rules, that because HUD rules are built on fair housing rules, that might be a challenge to add preference.
Yeah, I think we'd have to look at fair housing.
And then how do you determine like who's worthy? So I think, you know what, let me tell you, being in poverty is expensive. It is expensive. So my first 2 years in the education realm, we qualified for LEAP, CHP, and I had a degree. My husband couldn't work. We were a family of 5. And we were getting food from Catholic Charities. And then, damn it, we got into the payday, those check into cash and all that. Oh my gosh. Yeah. So it was a nightmare to try to get out. And I'm an educated person. So just some of the barriers and things that people face, it doesn't matter how many life skills you have. If you get caught in this cycle of poverty, it is so hard to get out. So I want us to be really cautious in that we're not putting people in categories of who's worthy for benefits and who is not. I think we kind of have to have that open mind to have these resources out for anyone who will take up on this and move forward and advance themselves as they get through there. Sorry, I was like, you triggered me. But I'm gonna let Councilmember Chris respond, and then I will hand it over to Councilmember Chris.
My sole direction in this is to say that because it's local, we don't have to deny students. Whereas in the other HUD rules, we do. So I'm just saying, we have the opportunity there. Let's make sure that people who need and want that opportunity can take it. And I think a lot of that's with families. So, yeah. I'm not saying it's not a worthiness,
Yeah.
because we're all worthy, but, some of these rules keep people from getting education and getting out of the poverty loop. That's
There's a lot to it. Yeah. There's multi reasons why
what they
very
call the
challenging.
poverty cliff
Yes.
or what have you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, okay, thank you for the clarification. Councilmember Prieto.
Hi, Molly.
Hello.
So one question I have, so as council starts to look at moving toward finding solutions to address family homelessness, which is a huge issue, not only in Longmont, but Boulder County. And to your point, we've put a lot of focus on single household individuals. And so it feels like it's about time. And it's not only the direction I think the city is going, but also other organizations in our community are going in that direction as well. So I'm also excited to see some of the connections that we're going to make and how we're going to resource stack to really create systems to move families through and out of poverty. One question I have, so this is definitely the right direction, but I understand vouchers can last a lifetime. And so how many vouchers does this equate to tomorrow for families?
It would be 2 to start with under the current funding availability.
Okay, so it would be 2. So I just want to highlight to the rest of council that this is a huge community need, and 2 is definitely better than 0. but a lot more work needs to go toward addressing family homelessness in our community. And so, yeah, just thinking about solutions moving forward, and as we talk through our council retreat, as to what are some other ways that we can brainstorm to provide more solutions and support for families. And so I think that was my only question. Yep, that's it. Thank
So
you.
I think the point I would make is if council does say modify the plan to target families, then attrition, as that occurs and they free up, then we'll be targeting families. So you're not going to take anything away from anyone, but with attrition, then the next phase is we target the families.
Of course, yeah, as they become available, when,
3 may become 4.
just depending.
Yeah.
Okay. Awesome. Thank you. That was my only question.
Great, thank you. Councilmember Marcin.
Thank you, Mayor. One of the things that I'm hearing, Molly, is kind of the conversation about, referral source, and just something that I want to put out there is I would be personally a little hesitant about using the district as a referral source, specifically because of the age group that we're talking about of kids that are inside of that system. We're going to miss a lot of families with very young kids that could be at potentially very high risk for needing services. So I would look to think about other potential options there, so we capture more of that 0 to 3 space, and then potentially salute our. I mean, we could talk about it. So my only other, and I don't have an answer, right? But individual homelessness is still going to be a challenge for our community, and I know that I recognize that really since HSBC was formed, and I was on Housing and Human Services, 6 years ago? Like, that was the focus of how, so there has been a lot of resources put into the challenge. It is still something that, we hear about all the time as members of council, because it's very visible regularly. So I don't know that I have an answer to this, but I guess in our thinking as a council about how we balance, if we're going to make this change, and I'm supportive of making the change, what is the next step beyond that to backfill some of what we will lose in the individual homelessness space? So really, it's a question and just a thought for council about referral source. So that's all I wanted to mention.
Okay, thank you. Councilmember Popkin.
Thank you, Mayor. I want to offer 2 things. First, I have quite a few questions. I apologize that I did not send these in advance, contrary to my usual MO. So bear with me. I'll give a preface to council here that I'm not sure I'm ready to give direction on this tonight, and to the extent that it's possible to sit with this a little bit longer and think about kind of strategically how I want to use in terms of providing guidance here, I might want to sit with some of the answers you give me to the questions. Secondly, I'm going to ask some questions that probe on the overall efficacy of this, but that's not to challenge what has been done. It's really to get at what should we be doing going forward here. So just wanted to offer that before we get at that. When we talk about the referrals to different kind of partner organizations here, are any of those double counted? So can someone go to our center and El Comité, and are they counted in both of those, or are these discrete users, just so we're getting a sense of the true numbers?
Yes, Councilor Popkin and Mayor, they can be, because we don't have access to that specific data. So some of these could be double counted, right? Because it could be the same families that are working with two organizations trying to, and I will say that many times it takes multiple organizations to get a family stabilized enough to get into housing.
Yeah, it's not inherently a bad thing. I just wanted to understand what to make of the data that we have.
Yeah, you are correct. It could be double.
Yeah.
But the same brain is consistent.
Right, because they use the McKinney-Vento Act, yes.
So that's not double counting, that 800 number.
Correct. The St. Vrain number, the 899, is kind of a broader catch-all, as Ali Bocha was saying earlier,
Right.
and yet there are subsets within
Correct.
that data set too.
Yeah.
So I'm just trying to understand services provided to different families and whether those are different families or not inherently.
And I will say one more thing that I think is important. What even if these numbers are doubled, what that demonstrates is the deep level of collaboration that happens between the county, the city, our nonprofit partners, right? A lot of times it's those family case conferences has levels from different organizations.
So I think to that, if you go back, can you go back to that slide? When you look at program referrals and you look at the different agencies, but then you look at the McKinney-Vento number, there very well could be within that referral group folks relying on multiple agencies, which actually means you're assisting fewer people.
Right.
And when you're starting,
right, that's what I'm trying to get at.
So that's the challenge. So typically, they're probably working with us.
Which again isn't inherently a critique, it's just a reflection of the circumstances and trying to parse out what data should we work with or take or make assumptions based on.
And a side note on your question, that's one of the challenges that we've been engaged with with the county for quite some time, is actually this data sharing component, because even on single individuals, we think there's duplication occurring but we don't have access to that data because we don't own it. So it's a larger issue in that as government agencies, we can talk to each other, and I know that on the single side, we're helping someone, Lafayette's helping them. We just don't have access to that data, and we've been trying to create a program to actually show us, bring the data set in so we can understand who's moving in multiple systems. That's kind of then what we're trying to do locally when we look at CareNet, at least within what we're doing, and then eventually with our local partners, is to try to get it, understanding that with a little bit more depth.
Yeah, thank you, Harold. That's helpful clarity there. My understanding coming into this, and I don't want to quote exact numbers, but my understanding from previous conversations was that the number of unhoused in Longmont were somewhere between, on average, depending on the season and depending on circumstance, between 200 and 300 people. Is that
less than 200? I think it's probably between 100 and 120, but that's only single individuals.
That's unhoused single individuals.
Single individuals.
And it probably doesn't reflect the whether people are doubled up in housing, in transitional housing.
That's single individuals that they're counting in their point in time surveys and what they're doing. This is a completely different population that we're starting to look at to see, and that's the family homelessness count. Is that accurate? Yep. Okay.
So then I'm trying to look at the numbers here and make a little bit more sense of this. So if I understand correctly, it's 1.33 million really over the last 4 years of program spend that we've done for this LFV effort, right?
Correct.
So and we've served 21 individuals.
Yes.
And are currently serving 13 of those still. So maybe. If you do a little bit of basic division there, it's about $63,000 per person over the period of a period of performance here, if you will. Recognizing that some people may have only been served for some of those years and some people are ongoing. Is that a fair metric or comparison to think about? Is there something that's like absent when we're thinking about? Yeah, Alberto, you can jump in here. I'll ask two questions and you can answer however you want on this. Is that a fair metric to compare like program efficacy and dollar per spend? And do we have a sense of how that compares to, if it's a fair metric, how it compares to other communities in the region on that kind of similar per capita basis?
So, Councilor Popkin, Mayor.
Mike.
Yeah.
There we go.
You turn it on. Is that on? It is on. Okay. Councilor Popkin, Mayor and Council. So there has been a lot of research, and I don't have the exact research in front of me right now. But the number that has been thrown around for years, and some of you may have heard it before, that the amount that it costs a community for an unsheltered, unhoused single individual a year, when you think about ER visits, when you think about interaction with criminal justice, is around $40,000 a year. Right, so that's a number that's been thrown around for quite some time. I don't have the exact study in front of me, and so when you think about that, and you think about 63,000 over 4 years, you divide that by 4, right? Let's say somebody's been in the program for 4 years. I'm not great at on my feet math, but it's a lot less than 40,000 a year, right?
About 16,000, yeah.
Right. So when you think about that, the idea is that being housed, I mean, this is kind of the tenet of the housing first model, right? Is that if we help people stay stabilized in their home, get them housed, we'll reduce other societal costs. So that's one way to look at it. It's not the only way to look at it, but that's one way to look at it.
Right, it's not just a program spend, but it's also the societal benefit that we're getting net by not spending on other areas.
Right.
Absolutely. Do you have a sense of how that 16, 17K compares across other municipalities in the
So I know
range?
that the city
So
of,
hold on, Elliot, we gotta, so I want to kind of clarify some things.
Yeah.
So why is this coming tonight is because this is a piece of other programs. And this is about the locally funded vouchers, of which the agreement with the housing authority is coming up. And so there's a decision point for council now on this piece. There will be a conversation that council directed us to bring back on the broader health and human service funding. Because in the case, in the numbers that we're referring here, we put how much? It's 45% of.
yeah, about 46%.
And that's how much money, dollar value?
like 1.3 or 2 million.
So then you have 1.2 or 3 million that's put into homelessness that is primarily going to single individuals. And so to just say that this is a 60,000 here doesn't account for that there are other programs that these individuals may be working with that are being funded through another source of funding.
Right.
And so it's really in that health and human service funding conversation where where we're bringing it back to council, where that holistic look will really be in that conversation. This is only one piece of a bigger
Yeah, so
pie.
that's really helpful, Harold. And I think where I'm struggling tonight is that in the discussion, to the discussion point on do we want focus on individual, focus on families, some combination of that. What I'm trying to grapple with here is like, is this a values-based conversation that we're trying to have tonight, or is this a like metric impact-based discussion that we're trying to like have tonight, and like who we would like prioritize as a council without discriminating, but a type of unit or type of a household that we would prioritize? Is it on a values basis or is it on an impact basis? If it's the latter, then I don't feel, if it's an impact basis, I don't feel like I have all the pieces yet to advise effectively on this. And I'd kind of want to see, to Harold, your point there, I'd want to see some of the other programs we're doing, just even informationally, so I can understand kind of what is this addressing, this conversation addressing that those programs might not be, or what is this complementing that those programs might be. And again, truly, this is not in any way a critique of this specific effort. It's trying to understand the broader holistic system that we're trying to help manage ultimately.
Yeah.
So I don't want to like take too much time right now, but I think for my fellow council members, this is where I'm getting a little bit caught here for tonight in terms of what type of direction we want to provide. And so I'd welcome thoughts on one, maybe there's just something that's getting me bottled up. But also if there's other ways maybe we can move forward, kind of, I recognize the timeline of the next 2 months really that we have to work with on this. Maybe it's an offline conversation, happy to go in that direction if productive.
I think if I could answer really quickly.
Yeah, go ahead.
What we're really saying is when we, in this case, overall, the bulk of our resources, almost all of them, actually go to single individuals. Whether it's on the permanent supportive housing, those are one-bedroom units that we're designing, and you look at the other programs. The reason this came forward is because what we're actually seeing is a need for families, and we really don't have any programs to assist families. The only program that we really have that we can count on is the winter sheltering that we have. And outside of that, there's not a lot that we do locally. So that's why we're bringing this forward, is because we have a lot of need. We don't have any solutions. And this was a piece of the solution leading to a broader conversation that needs to occur down the road when you look at how you want to direct the policy conversation. So to a certain extent, I think it is a values conversation from the standpoint that we're at a decision point and we're saying there's a lot of need. We really don't have a program to fill that need.
And Mayor, if I may.
Yes, go ahead.
What we're really focusing on this one, there's a lot of ways to support homeless families. What we are talking about is getting them into permanent housing units. There's a lot of other support that goes into the bigger conversation. Really what this program impacts, which is on the same level as what Zinnia provided and what the suites provided, is the actual location for them to go and be able to have the rent payment made for that. So I think that was the intent, is to focus on this slice of the pie in this one program.
Thank you.
Okay. So I'm going to go ahead and pass it over to Councilmember Prieto. But this is it's really important that we bring our questions ahead of time, because then, that could have been some great conversation having front loading prior to this. I mean, I've done that with you guys. If there's something that I think, oh, I don't know if I'm going to vote on this, and then I get some history and context. Councilmember Prieto.
So this one's for Matthew. So just kind of evaluating kind of community need. And I work in this space, and I worked in this space for a really long time. I just recently was working with a mother who was unhoused with her 6-month-old baby. And when we're looking at Boulder County, we don't have an immediate overnight shelter for families like we do for single individuals in Boulder and sometimes here in Longmont, depending on the weather. That does not exist for families. So they're in their car, if they're lucky, they have a car. And if they don't have a car, then who knows where they're going. And I was talking to Ali Bertha last time, some of these numbers, it's really hard for Longmont to even capture these families, because you have to go into some of these systems to even capture that data. And a lot of the families are falling through the gap and not even getting connected to some of these systems, because some of these resources are so hard to access. And so just kind of thinking about that contemplation piece of, like, if this is a decision you want to make tonight, I can say with a lot of confidence here that there's very few to little shelters available for families. When if I go homeless tonight, I can go to the Boulder shelter. I can go to a weather shelter as a single adult and have a warm place to be. That's non-existent for families. We have certain programs like via our Safe Shelter, Mother House, or even some transitional short-term. But some of those are really long wait lists and they're not immediate. And so moving in this direction, for me, it makes sense. And again, this is just a small, very small, this does piece to that pie, but it's moving in that right direction for families. And so just wanted to give you that perspective on shelter available for a family. We don't have one. And this seems a lot more doable to do versus us trying to build a shelter for families tomorrow. So that's just kind of some input that I had.
Thank you. Okay. Oh, we have Councilmember Marsing.
Thanks, Mayor. I've really appreciated the discussion from everybody, and this is I know, an important topic to the community and the council. I do think, considering timeline and what I'm hearing from staff, is just general philosophical direction on where you want us to go here. So I'm going to go ahead and move option 1, which is to direct staff to modify locally funded voucher program to target family homelessness for future voucher holders.
Okay. Oh, perfect. Okay. So the motion was made by Councilmember. To direct. Oh, did you get it? Oh, okay. Okay. So so the motion was made by Councilmember Marsing to direct staff to modify the tenant selection plan for locally funded voucher program from targeting individuals to families, and it was seconded by Councilmember Kalkoffer. Okay, let's go ahead and vote. Okay, and that carries unanimously. Thank you. And we are now on to the 2026 legislative bills recommended for City Council position. And Sandy Cedar will present.
Hello again, Mayor and Council. Sandy Cedar, Assistant City Manager. One of my roles in the city is I serve as your lobbyist this time of year. Yeah, yay, that's good. Let me get this off here. There we go. I am no longer registered. They had changed that law a few years ago to say that municipal folks, as long as I'm not working for anybody else, no longer have to register as a lobbyist. And I don't work for anyone else but you. And so in my capacity as your legislative affairs person, this time of year, the state legislature rolls from January until May. They usually introduce about 800 bills or so, and I take those bills, read them generally, send them to staff for feedback. They give me feedback. I also attend the Colorado Municipal League caucus meetings as well to kind of find out what's happening from their perspective. And when a bill is either going to be really helpful for Longmont or really hurtful for Longmont, I bring those bills to you for an official position. It's really important to note that during the legislative season, that this body, the way that this body does this is that you all decide when you're going to take an official position, and that is the city's position. Cities do this all sorts of different ways. This council has decided that only when the council takes a position is that the official city position. So individual council members are always welcome to speak on their own behalf as long as you're clear about that when you're either testifying or talking to somebody about legislation. But the official position is the one that comes here. Councilmember Marsing had asked a question earlier this week that I forwarded back to you all also, since this is the season for all this fun work. If there's a bill that you're seeing that you would like for the council to take a position on, feel free to let me know and I'll bring it. I send those bills to you on Fridays for the discussion on Tuesday because things are rolling pretty quick. So this agenda item will just continue to roll and roll and roll until we get through to May. And I will send out updates to you every Friday with the bills that we'll be taking, that we'll be asking for positions on. Once you take that position, then I take that information and I send it to our representatives. I don't usually send it to other folks unless they're asking for that information, but for our representatives, they get that information sometimes the same evening so that they have that consideration as they're voting and working through committee. So that's how the process works overall. Does anyone have any questions on that before we tackle an actual bill?
Councilmember Marsing.
Thank you, Mayor. Quickly, Sandy, just generally if you come to us, during a process and we're not able to give you a heads up, or like, is this an appropriate forum to say, hey, I've got a couple bill numbers, can you bring these back to us? Without necessarily discussing the content of the bill, obviously, because most of us probably haven't seen them, but so tonight I could theoretically do that.
Yes, you absolutely could.
Cool.
And then what will happen is I'll send that to council or to our staff. I'll get that analysis back and then back on Friday.
Okay.
Is generally how that works because we want to try to keep it going quickly because of the committee meetings.
Totally fair.
Yeah.
And is now an appropriate time, Mayor, or would you prefer to wait? Because I just have two bill numbers.
Okay, can we discuss this one? Let's
Cool.
discuss this
Great.
one
Yep.
first.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. Does
Any other questions on the process?
Yeah, so let's go to process, continue with process. Councilmember Prieto?
I just have a question. So we're going to be talking about bills and where the city stands on certain bills. Has the city ever taken positions on county initiatives? Like,
Mayor Hidalgo Faring and Councilmember Prieto, we have taken positions, particularly on ballot issues that come out for the school district, for the county, for the state. I mean, the city council has certainly given that direction to me in the past.
Okay.
I don't usually bring those to you, kind of the same way that we bring the state ones. But anytime that you want for us to bring pretty much anything for an official position, that's the way we'll do it. In fact, sometimes you'll even see federal legislation. I think I just sent you one recently on telecommunications siting. And we usually work through our national partners like NATOA or NLC on those kind of federal issues. But once in a while, something comes up and we want to make sure that we have an official city position on those as well. So yes, it's however you would like to direct it. It's not something that I currently monitor. But like I said, when it gets to be election season, there's usually people asking you for your opinions on many of those ballot issues.
okay, I was just curious.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, Mayor Pro Tem.
Thank you, Mayor. Just to that point there, this is why every other month we meet with the consortium of cities. And as you know, I always send on to you anything that we need to either have brought to us as a council for that, so that if there's any official business that actually needs to be conducted and they're going to ask for a vote, that's it. But otherwise, it's not those things. We don't usually vote with, on the spot. It's the council's guidance that it's taken from, and we often present to that commission. City staff does, or one of us presents that to the other consortium members, how we do it in Longmont.
I think that's a great point. And in fact, many of you sit on different boards, including the CML Policy Committee and Dr. Cog and all sorts of groups. When they are talking about legislation, they are talking about their position as a board that they are interested in taking. And so if the city council has taken a position on a bill that you're considering in one of those boards, it's important that you represent that city position. But if it's not, and oftentimes there isn't one, it's important to be able to speak based on your vision and work plan as you represent Longmont in each of those areas. So it doesn't mean that you can't support or oppose something that comes up in those groups. Just recognize if there's an official city position that you need to bring that to light. Yeah. All right.
Okay, so now, go ahead. Process or bill? Okay, process.
One other process question, and the reason I asked you about registration, Sandy, is because I was just poking around and I looked at old license. I diving back into the old archives. And one of the things that I know is that typically when a lobbyist or an officially registered organization takes a position on a bill, it gets listed on the Secretary of State's website as these are the folks who've registered in favor, these are the folks opposed. If you're not registered, I'm wondering, do we show up in that Secretary of State listing? So essentially what we're doing is, because the only way then that folks know where we're at is if we're communicating directly with them. So it would just be our legislators then. We're giving a heads up to them.
That's right. That's
Okay.
right. That's who I usually reach out to.
Okay.
Sometimes there'll be something that comes up, where it's helpful to reach out to a neighboring legislator, or
Yeah.
if they're asking for our opinion because we run a specific program, we'll certainly answer those kinds of inquiries.
I just know, having worked down there, that when that people look at that list, they really do look at the list of folks who have taken positions in favor and against, and undecided votes often are like, all right, who's here, who's there, and having City of Longmont listed there on bills that we care about may be something valuable for us at some point. Certainly not asking you to go through a ton of paperwork process, but I don't know what the solution to that is, but it's something that just struck me a little bit. So.
Mayor, it's not a huge process. I mean, we
Yeah.
stopped doing it because we were no longer legally required to. But
Yeah.
if the city council decided that they would prefer for me to register as a lobbyist and register the votes, that's fine too. It's up to you.
It's just because really it is a list on the website. These are the people who are out in favor. And when legislators are going through it, City of Longmont doesn't like this bill. So I don't know, just a thought.
So without you registering, does that not put us on the list? Am I
correct?
Okay.
That's right. So
Got it.
So your positions aren't registered on the state list.
State list.
But
Okay.
we still send that information to our legislators and encourage them to vote the way that you're suggesting.
Got it. Okay. And then is this on process or the bill? Process, okay.
Yeah, I'm sympathetic to the direction that Councilmember Marsing was just alluding to there. I mean, the power of taking a position on something is that people know we took a position on it. Otherwise, if a tree falls in the forest, you know the rest of that. So I think it'd be worth thinking about maybe what is our how do we want to, especially with some of the home rule issues that people have been alluding to and that we've seen starting to crop up, that we understand how we can best use our collective voice. We don't have to solve that tonight, but I'll just put a plug in for trying to address that conversation. And then just one other process question, Sandy. And you and I have talked about this a little bit on the federal side, but on the state side, do we do like council lobby days down for bills that we have taken positions on at the State House in Denver?
That's a great question. Mayor Hidalgo Faring and Councilmember Popkin, we have not done a specific down at the State House kind of day. There have been situations where we've asked particular members, including yourself, to testify for different pieces of legislation, sometimes online, sometimes in person.
Sure.
And sometimes you will find that you want to testify on something specifically as an individual council member, kind of regardless of where the city stands on something. But we have not had, a take everybody down to the State House kind of day. I find that it's much more useful to have the dinner that you have in June, July with our legislators, as opposed to necessarily going down for kind of the handshake kind of meeting. It, in my mind, is more meaningful when you can talk about the policies that are important to you and that they're able to really listen to what's happening and offer their suggestions as well. But again, the entire legislative process and policy was devised by the council and directed by the council. So anything that you're interested in doing either differently or additionally, happy to entertain those motions.
I appreciate that. Again, we don't have to do that tonight, but I'd love to rethink our approach there. I think there's opportunities for us to be more tactical and think about which tactics are most valuable. And I just think back to at least the one legislative dinner that I've really been a part of so far, which was last August. I don't recall really a ton of agenda items coming on because it was post-session. And yes, there was a special session about to happen at the State House last August, but I don't recall a ton of items kind of being...
And we usually didn't schedule, that was an odd time that we scheduled it.
I believe the council considered that a pre-session.
Precursor.
For this legislative session.
Interesting.
So council has done this differently during different eras. We used to have the legislative dinner in January so that the first kind of 100 bills had been introduced and you could speak your mind on the first 100 bills. And then a few years ago, the council, really felt like if they were going to impact something, it needed to be before drafting. So that was June, July, August timeframe as opposed to January timeframe. So,
And we
but
didn't
again,
have a lot of things on the agenda, so it almost, I don't know if it worked as intended, because it really depended on us bringing forward specific issues, and we didn't do that. So I'm wondering if
there were
yeah.
a few meaty topics. I mean, you took the entire time to talk about budget constraints.
I think that was the biggest one. Yeah,
I think sex offender
that was
citing
the
was
other
part
one.
of that. Was part of that time frame. So I feel like now, did that result in any specific legislation? Not necessarily. But certainly being able to give your legislators more of an opinion on how what they do affects Longmont, I think probably is helpful.
Got it.
Yeah.
Thank you. I'd love for us to rethink that at some point.
Absolutely.
Okay, so now on to Senate Bill 26003.
Thank you, Mayor. So Senate Bill 26003 concerning expansion of the scope of the Battery Stewardship Act. You've probably heard this one in the news. This would expand it so that EV batteries need to be recycled. We recognize that this is still an emerging technology, and we are a fleet that owns lots and lots of EVs, so this would apply to us also as owners of EVs, that we would have to recycle these batteries as well. But certainly this is part of the council's sustainability efforts, and it seems like something that, based on council's policies, that you would be interested in supporting. So the staff would recommend support for this bill, Senate Bill 003.
Okay, and do we have any questions, or would someone like to make a motion?
I'll move.
Okay, so go ahead and put on your...
I'll move that we take staff's recommendation in regards to Senate Bill 26-003.
Okay. Second. Okay, so the motion was made to recommend council support for Senate Bill 26003, and it was seconded by Councilmember Christ. Okay, and now we have discussion. Councilmember Popkin.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. Do we have a sense yet as to what's required of municipalities in this? Like, is there like I mean, I know we as a city have a universal recycling ordinance and policies in concept there, but does this require us to come up with like a battery stewardship plan? Does this require us to put aside money to hold for certain things? No, do we not? Is there?
No, there's no additional requirements for the city. However, because we do have our own trash and recycling services, this is something that our waste services manager weighed in and said that he would be interested in providing that service for Longmont residents, but it doesn't require that he does.
Cool, thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, let's go ahead and vote.
Who was the motion and second on this one,
Oh, I'm
please,
sorry.
Mayor?
It was Mayor Pro Tem McCoy and seconded by Councilmember Christ. Okay, and that carries unanimously. And so now I'm going to open it up if somebody wanted to bring something forward. Go ahead, Councilmember Marcy.
There's a lot coming up, by the way.
Yeah. So.
I figured that would be the case. I just wanted to shout out three bills that I would love to have come back to us. That's House Bill 26-1001, which is the Home Act.
It's on my list for Friday.
Fantastic.
Oh, good. Okay.
Senate Bill 2619 and Senate Bill 2620. Those are two early childhood ed bills.
Very good. House Bill 1001 on land use and affordable housing, Senate Bill 2619 and Senate Bill 2620 on early care. You got it.
So, and then do you need a vote for this or consensus or?
Sure.
I mean,
nods are fine.
Okay.
I mean,
good with that. Yeah.
To some extent, any bill that you bring up comes back to you
us
for
to
the vote.
vote anyways. Okay.
You don't have to vote on whether you want to see these. Any bill that you want to
Yes.
see, I'll bring back with analysis for your consideration.
So, Councilmember, can you provide a synopsis? No, just kidding. Oh, no, I'm just kidding.
I'll provide it.
I
I'll
am
bring it
totally
next week,
kidding.
I promise.
I am totally kidding. You turn off that mic. Okay, well, great, thank you very much. So now we're moving on to final call, public invited to be heard. Do we have anyone in the audience who would like to speak? Come on down. Okay. And please state your name.
My name is Marie Nicholson Hutt, 1193 Fall River Circle. Sorry, I'm tall. Good evening, Mayor, Council. Thank you for being here and taking the time to listen. I had to put my kid to sleep. That's why I missed the first round. I'm here tonight to express concern about ICE kidnapping and killing people. You have heard me speak in the past about freeing Palestine, and the council at that time took the stance that it did not matter what's going on over there. That's fine, whatever. Anyway, some things have been happening here in Longmont now over the past year. ICE has kidnapped around 6 people from Longmont. I don't see any Longmont police in any of those videos, which is good news for us, but how do we help our fellow residents from being kidnapped or killed? Other municipalities are passing ordinances requiring ICE to show ID and to be unmasked. Can we use our flock to warn our neighbors that these guys are in our city? Can we direct public safety not to release names of arrested residents to ICE? Can we pass an ordinance that ICE is not allowed on school property to grab kids and use them as bait? I know these are all kind of crazy, but it's happening. So I'm hopeful you all do some things proactively to protect the community. And if not them, at least maybe protect our police officers because this endangers them. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Okay, do we have anyone else in the audience? Okay, so we are now to mayor and council comments. Councilmember McCoy.
All right, thank you. This Saturday at Longmont High, 800 plus students and advisors, along with 50 additional community members acting as judges, will be holding the Colorado State FBLA District 2 District Leadership Conference. Students will be competing in 71 competitive events. The majority of the schools are from St. Vrain Valley School District, schools like Longmont, Silver Creek, Meade, and Erie, and Boulder Valley School District, schools like Boulder, Fairview, Monarch, and Broomfield will be participating. To provide a little bit of perspective to the community, to let them know how many kids are out there and actively involved with this. Longmont High School has the largest chapter in the state of Colorado with over 300 students involved with this. And so this is not open to the public, but it's going to be quite the event. And so if you see a lot of activity going on over at Longmont High School, that's what's happening.
Okay, nice. Councilmember Christ.
Thank you, Mayor. So Longmont we're going to hear more about the America 250 and Colorado 150, our next session, I think. Or is it February 3rd? It could be March 3rd. To be continued shortly, soon, yes. But I just wanted to mention that the Colorado statehood postage stamp came out on the 24th, and it's a photograph from John Fielding. It's quite beautiful, actually. And so look for it at the post office or online with the USPS, because it's worth having. Up in one corner it says USA Forever, and then 1876 Colorado in the other corner. Also, just talking about the airport, there is a Freedom plane arriving at the end of May with original documents, for instance, of the Declaration of Independence, among others, for people to see in person. So, yeah, that's part of the America 250.
February 10th.
Okay, February 10th, we'll be talking America 250 and Colorado 150.
Great, thank you. Councilmember Prieto.
Just some comments and thoughts here. And I wasn't planning on speaking on it, but we've had a couple residents touch on the ICE topic. And we all know it's happening nationally. I know staff has sent us just kind of, current communication as far as the city and our communication to residents and ensuring them that they can call public safety at any time and not be afraid to. But I also just want to highlight the fact that like any event that threatens the health or safety of residents, we put drills into place. It is a touchy subject and topic, and I know Eugene's over there like, oh my God, and sometimes staying under the radar is the best. So my intention is not to be the sounding alarm and create more attention to this topic, but it would not be smart for us not to do anything. And so I'm just wanting to acknowledge what's happening, wanting to acknowledge nationally that the budget for ICE has increased substantially. I know El Comite was kind of sounding the alarm early on, saying, we don't know what's coming, but we know something's coming. And we're seeing the results of that, not here specifically as loud, but we're seeing it. And like someone mentioned earlier, with potential ICE facilities coming closer here to Colorado, I just want to be sure as a city that we have a plan. And I've been doing research and thinking about what that could look like, Mayor. And I think just drills. I think safety drills. I don't believe, I think we can all prepare as families in a city to come together and be under one communication with one another and understanding as to what do we do in certain situations and how do we align the city, how do we align with organizations, and how do we align with residents so that when something happens, we all know what to do. And we may not be able to do what we want to do or things that provide real solutions, but even just something to that level, whether it be notification systems of, unauthorized, or not unauthorized, but unexpected police presence notifications, not necessarily warning about ICE or anything like that, just so schools and families and, I don't think that exists. And I don't know, I think these are really hard conversations and they touch a lot of legal topics, but I think these are conversations that need to be had now versus later when we're all panicking. So I just want to highlight that. I want to acknowledge our residents. I want to acknowledge the thoughts in all of our heads when we watch the news. and the fear that we feel. And I also just want residents to know that council is thinking about this, and I'm hopeful, like we are in every other aspect, leaders, that we can too lead in this area and be creative while obeying the law. So I just wanted to say that. Yeah. And if you guys have any ideas as to how we can move forward as a council, I would appreciate the support in that.
Thank you. Thank you for that. Councilmember Kalkofer.
Thank you, Mayor. I wasn't planning on making a comment on that, but I would like us to figure out a way to better communicate, because there has been some situations where residents reach out to us asking questions, and by the time that information loop gets back, there could be either misinformation that goes out, or wrong information, or rumors that go out. So it would be nice if we can figure out a way to pass along information quickly, to make sure people are in the know about what's going on. So I do echo what you're saying. What I did want to speak about is I went to visit Longmont. I do want the public to know, because a lot of people have been coming up to me. Visit Longmont is talking a lot about Sundance, and there's a lot of planning and preparation when it comes to Sundance and events and meetings. So I want everybody to know that at least Visit Longmont is engaging with the Sundance, and there's a lot of preparation going on with that. And another important thing that I heard during the Visit Longmont board meeting was the hotel owners they make most of their money when the Sparklers event comes to town, and I'm nervous that the Sparklers might look somewhere else, because there's been some communication about some of our ball fields maybe not being as nice as some surrounding places, and a lot of our hotel owners are expecting that revenue to come in, and if we're not keeping up to par and they might go somewhere else, then our hotels, who are generating a lot of tax for the city, might go away. So it's something that we might want to consider when we're looking at Parks and Rec and how that money is distributed to them, because we're also generating a lot of tourism that comes in, and a lot of hotels are expecting that revenue and that sales tax for us. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else? Okay, so I do have a couple of things to say. So one of the things in response, and I've mentioned before that I'm on the council, the REAL Council, so the Racial Equity and Leadership Council. I know we had mulled around the idea of possibly even changing the name because of the inclusion of equity, or racial equity. And what in speaking with, and there's about 30 of us on there, and different mayors and city council people from all over the United States. And, and really coming together and looking at how we respond to things that come down to us. And one of the things that came up with that is that municipalities that did change their names to remove that equity component or racial equity, or addressing some of those barriers and calling the names what they are, and then choosing a more neutral tone name, that they actually lost engagement from some of the most vulnerable people who really could have used that support. So, making sure that we are sticking with our names and it's this weird slippery slope. And, another piece that we were talking about is having coordinated response with area municipal leaders. So that is some things that I've been talking with other mayors and city council people, is how can we respond as a unit? So some of the things that add to more the rumor mill and panic and fear is that different people are doing different things, and how people are responding differently to an event. And so if we have something that's streamlined. So I think about, even when we, in the school district, there is a process of what happens when ICE comes to the door. And there is a processes of what we were told is how this is going to work. And, who gets called and, kind of this chain of command. The public really doesn't know that. And so I'm thinking, is that something that would be beneficial for public to be aware of, that what these processes are? Definitely continue with the Know Your Rights. For several years, I did Know Your Rights with the Colorado People's Alliance, with the Colorado Education Association when I was on the Ethnic Minority Advisory Council. We did these trainings where people knew what their rights were to kind of self-advocate and know who to call to in these chains of commands. I know that there's been circulating different organizations. I think Margaret Alonso has put together these great papers that have, the Know Your Rights and who to call and these resource pages. So there are things out there, and it's really making sure that the people in need are able to access those. So that's something we're looking at. And and I've had conversations with our state and Congress people too. It's sue them, do something, and what can we do? What can we do at this local level to support and protect our people? Because we're elected into this position to protect our people, and we have First Amendment rights, and we have Fourth Amendment. We have these rights, and we want to make sure that they're not being chiseled away and eroded, and what we can do as a local municipality to kind of keep our people safe, but also being vigilant and minding what's going on. I know that doesn't really answer with anything concrete, but know that the conversations are happening, and we want to make sure that we're very thoughtful and careful and how we respond that isn't going to put the people at risk in harm's way. I had said this during the open forum. I have family members who live on the Zuni reservation. We are hearing of people who live on the Indian reservations getting picked up by ICE because they don't have proper documentation. They don't have proper documentation because they're living in the middle of nowhere and they don't have access to DMVs. I mean, that's the case with some of the folks I know. And so it's how these systems work to really penalize individual marginalized groups. And, there's a lot of work ahead of us, and I think, if we stand firm, hold the line to protect our people. I am open to conversations. I really like that we'd have an emergency response. That's a great idea. Join Real. So
Send me an invite.
I will. I'll send you all the stuff. And then I did want to, so on the side, on my spare time, I'm part of an organization called Colorado Mad Moms. And we are actually a group of moms who have children with SMI, severe mental illness. And we have a lobby day. We've been planning a lobby day for February 19th. So if you want to come check it out, check out the lobby day. And we're advocating, there are several bills coming down the line to improve mental health access. There's a few bills that really tailor towards people with mental illness in the criminal justice system and the juvenile justice system. And then looking at healthcare providers. One of the things that we're seeing is people with severe mental illness, they become incarcerated and they're no longer tapped in with their own health insurance provider. So they're getting new medications. They're not connected with the history and the reactions to medication. So there's such this disconnect. So how do we bring that together? I may be bringing up some bills to ask you to have council take a position on, but I'm not at that stage yet. But really looking at which ones would most benefit our folks in our community around mental illness. So yeah, that's kind of what I'm doing. But yeah, just thank you for your comments and bringing these things to the forefront. I appreciate that. So we're going to go ahead and move on to city manager remarks.
No comments, Mayor, Council.
Okay, city attorney remarks.
No comments, Mayor?
Okay, but you'll talk to me afterwards. Yeah. Okay. Okay, we have a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Okay, so it's been moved by Mayor Pro Tem, seconded by Councilmember Christ. All those in favor? Aye. Aye, okay, we are adjourned.
sorry, I was just.